Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m. Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland.
We do have FM affiliates around Africa. We broadcast in English, Swahili, and the French language.
So if someone were to tune in to New Life, what would they hear?
Well, what I can promise them is that they will hear great music, a mix of music from the continent, as well as international music, Christian music, and they will also hear sound biblical teachings.
You said sound biblical teaching. Talk to us about the need.
There is something going across the continent nowadays with a lot of false teachings, and in a region that people need a lot of things in poverty and all of that, and they will go in for any kind of teachings, and most of those teachings will not be biblical. So for us, we look at what does the Bible say about certain situations.
After all, God's Word is the final authority for all of life. For a link to New Life Africa, go to twr.org/footsteps. twr.org/footsteps.
Footsteps is a production of TWR.
Culture can influence us positively too, but you see, criticizing our culture is a necessary, let me put it bluntly, criticizing our culture is a necessary Christian responsibility. Otherwise, we'll just end up imitating it.
A biblical call to be a critic from the book of Acts. This week on The God-Centered Life with Josh Moody.
Weeknights at 9:30 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. here on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Serving Erie, Huron, and Lake Counties and beyond. This is Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVME Meadville, WVMN Newcastle, WVMU Ashtabula, or stream us anywhere with the Moody Radio app, other streaming services, and at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
President Biden and former President Trump are set to face off in general election debates scheduled for June and September. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The two will participate in a CNN debate on June 27th in Atlanta and a second debate hosted by ABC News on September 10th. A West Geauga High School student is being sentenced after he brought a gun to school. Now, this incident happened in April of last year when 18-year-old Brandon Morrissette was found to have a handgun and 3 loaded magazines in his backpack, as well as a knife in his pants. Later, Morrissette admitted to authorities that he had developed a plan to use that gun to cause harm to students at the high school. Wednesday brought about what appeared to be an abrupt change of leadership at the University of Akron. The university announced the immediate retirement of President Gary Miller and the installation of School of Business Dean R.J. Nemmer as the new president. Nemmer has been the dean of UA's School of Business since 2022. I'll have sports and weather in just a moment.
The pain of loneliness can be overwhelming, debilitating, even life-threatening. But Steve DeWitt's latest book offers a different biblical take on that loneliness. Steve says, as painful as it is, you don't have to hate loneliness. In fact, it's a gift from God with a powerful redemptive effect on our lives. From pastor and Moody Radio host Steve DeWitt, loneliness. Don't hate it, don't waste it, use it, redeem it. Available at moodybooks.org.
In sports, the Cavaliers have been eliminated from the playoffs, falling to the Celtics 113-98, losing the best-of-7 semifinal series 4-1. The Guardians fell to the Rangers 4-0, while the Pirates were beat by the Brewers 10-2. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Patchy fog this morning, otherwise partly sunny. Highs today reaching into the mid-70s. And at last check, we did have clear skies in Cleveland, 54 degrees. Akron and Canton, clear and 53. Ashtabula reporting a fog and 55 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
Want to sell off some things as part of your spring decluttering? Whether it's a baseball card or a used car, there's an excellent tool to determine its worth. eBay. Don't waste time scrolling through active listings. Search for an item, then go to Filter and scroll to Sold Items. Check that box to enable that filter. This gives you a better idea of the prices folks are actually willing to pay. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:03. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
That's Phil Wickham on Mornings with Brian. Happy Thursday, everybody.
You too.
Ron's here. Daria's here.
Daria's here, yeah.
Brian
He's
is
busy.
not.
I am busy. Good morning.
Daria does stuff. Brian's out. He will be back on Monday. He's enjoying some time at his little hobby farm. I don't know what we're calling it.
Homestead.
Farm? Homestead. Thank you. What's the difference, do you think?
I see a homestead as it's a hobby and it's not as grandiose as a farm. Like he's got some animals and they're more pets than anything.
And then a hobby farm is it's actually like a somewhat working farm.
Right, but that's probably not your only source of income.
Got it. I get it now. Okay. So he'll be back Monday, but we're here and it's a big day. It's Thursday, which means Dave Szfranski is going to be with us. So if you've got some financial questions, go ahead, put them in the chat, meaning text or call 440-546-2255. Get your questions in for Dave Szfranski. I don't know. Maybe you have a large lump sum of cash.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to do. Dave can help you.
Yes, he can.
Even if he doesn't know what he's talking about, he'll find an answer.
That is true. He'll give it confidently.
I'm always like, oh, he knows. He knows that answer.
Not always.
Not always.
That's why we have a disclaimer.
Exactly. So get your questions in for Dave. I would also be remiss if I did not mention we have 5 pairs of tickets to Lauren Daigle. She's coming to Cleveland May 30th at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. So if you would like to go see Lauren Daigle, for free, just text the name Lauren to 440-546-2255. Enter to win tickets to see Lauren Daigle May 30th. Text Lauren to 440-546-2255.
And realize this is at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. This is
big place.
Big place. So the stage is big. The show is intended to be big. If you're looking for an intimate, one person at the piano kind of
no, I don't
concert,
think this is that.
This is not it. But if you like lively shows with a lot of stuff happening, this is a concert for you. And why not try to get free tickets?
Yeah.
Just text Lauren, Lauren.
Spell it right.
Yes, please. 440-546-2255.
Yeah, Lauren Daigle's been called the Christian Adele, so she's big time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She had a couple crossovers that were played on secular stations, which I thought was really cool.
I would always hear one of her songs. I don't remember which one.
Look Up Child was her big one that crossed over into pop.
I'd hear it when I was grocery shopping every week. I was like, that's funny. So text us now if you want to enter to win. I will be announcing winners May 24th, okay? So
got a little bit of time, not a ton.
That's right. As Daria said, somebody's got to win. So, okay, you guys, it is spring cleanup in my neighborhood.
Okay.
For the last 2 weeks. So what that means is you can put literally anything on the curb and they will take it.
Uh-oh.
Like anything.
Don't let Trey get loose.
Make her sit on the curb all day. So for the last 2 weeks, there's been like furniture, I don't know, random things. Eddie put some old carpet that we ripped out when we moved in. He put it out there. They just took it.
Yeah.
But that also means there are scavenger people.
Oh, the trash pickers.
Oh, yeah.
The trash pickers.
My people.
But I looked at some of my neighbor's stuff and I was like, that's not good stuff. What are you picking in from there?
Oh.
Once in a while, you can find some good stuff. My dad got a lawnmower that lasted him 10 years that he picked up off the curb. Yeah.
Someone we had a fire pit was in our yard when we moved in, but it was broken. Like the whole bottom was like
rusted out.
Yeah, rusted out. And someone took it.
Maybe they've got
what are they going to use it for?
Means to make a new bottom for it.
Maybe they'll fix it. Yeah, our across the street neighbors, it looks like an actual yard sale on their curb.
At least they're getting rid of stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We all have too much stuff.
What would you get rid of, Daria, if you had to put 5 things out?
5.
I've got some clothes that I don't wear anymore. I've got some furniture that was passed down to us when we got married that we really don't use anymore. So that needs to be taken out. I
kind of liked that my across the street neighbors put it out a week in advance so that people could go through it.
Yeah. How nice of them.
But then that also means yesterday when I was taking my trash bins out, someone waved at me. And I was like,
no,
don't wave at me.
We just talk about being good neighbors, Lauren. You got to wave back.
I know. Where I come from, that is not normal. And I was like, ooh, why are you looking at me?
Yeah. My kids always make fun of me because I wave at everybody.
Yeah. You would be the guy across the street yesterday.
I would have.
Yeah. I waved. I smiled and waved.
Well, good.
But I was not going to be the one to initiate the wave.
That's Trey's job.
And he did. There was also a little girl, Eddie and Trey were playing on their bikes in our driveway because we have a pretty big, it's a double wide driveway. And so they were just like going in circles on our driveway. And a little girl passed by and he just waved at her.
Aww.
Good for him.
And I was like, we're not making friends. I didn't say that, but I said it to myself. He makes me have to be social. So it's nice. She didn't wave back. So then I got enraged.
How
you
dare
wave at
you
my
insult
son.
my child?
You wave at him when he waves at you.
You come back here, little girl.
Yeah, come here. She's wearing a pink striped dress. I chased her down the street. Oh my gosh, Ron, what would you get rid of and trash pick up?
I've got about 5 routers still in my office, Wi-Fi routers.
Okay, I have so many questions about that.
Yeah.
Are they working? Why do you keep them? Are you going to rebuild them?
They do work. They're older. We were having trouble with our Netflix. You know, every once in a while you'd turn the TV on and it wouldn't connect. And so one of the methods they suggest is turn off your router and turn it back on. It turns out it's more effective, for me at least, turning the TV off and then turning it back on. It seemed to be that the
connection.
Yeah, the TV portion of that Wi-Fi connection was the bad part. But I had gone through, you know, my router, and a couple other people said, "Oh, I just got a new router, have my old one." And so I have this collection, and I need to take them. I know Staples, the business store, they take electronics for recycling.
Recycle them? Oh, that's nice.
Oh, very nice.
So I've taken stuff there before, and I intend to take these there. I just don't get around to it.
Okay, another question. What would you stop for if you saw on a curb and you would stop your car to pick it up?
Nice furniture.
Okay.
So sometimes you see like nice couches, like, oh, if I had a car that fit that, I would grab that.
All right, Ron. What are you stopping for? Spring cleanup.
I can tell you some things I have stopped for.
Yes, please.
Baby gates.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen them out, and some were fine and some were in disrepair, but, you know, I was able to modify them or make them useful. Stools, like bar stools.
Oh, yeah.
I've picked up a few of them before. A small bookshelf that's out here in our lobby area.
Yeah, I'd stop for furniture for sure.
So I don't know what I would right now. You know, baby gates are something you can always use. And I'd probably look at, a pool ladder. I picked up one of those ones.
Nice.
That's nice.
Yeah, that did hang a long way out of my car. But,
But hey.
It was like 3:30 or 4 in the morning, so
Yeah.
it wasn't too much
You're not going
traffic.
to injure someone. I saw a really nice chair, like a wingback chair.
Oh, yeah, those are nice.
It was so cute. It was like, not mint green, but like a sage green, maybe. I would have picked that up in a heartbeat, but I didn't know where I'd put it in my house.
A friend of mine picked up one of those off the curb, but it was cheetah print. And she hated the cheetah print. So her idea was to reupholster it in pink. And then she found out to reupholster the chair would be $400. And she's like, I might as well just buy a new chair.
Yeah, I'm just going to get a pink chair. Oh my god.
So this free chair would have cost her $400.
Yeah, exactly. A free chair she found. Right. Oh my gosh. Well, happy spring cleanup to everyone in Cuyahoga Falls. Put your stuff on the curbs if you've forgotten.
Yeah.
And also, text or call. Let us know what you're going to pick up. Is it a wingback chair or a baby gate? After this break, we're going to play our favorite game. Well, I don't know. I have maybe Would You Rather is my favorite game. My second favorite game, Pretend Experts. So what are the business decisions we're looking at today? Stick around and we'll play Pretend Experts.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity's support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free. free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838. That's 1-800-659-9838.
The Every Woman's Bible is a study Bible for the heart and mind. Engaging study notes and devotionals address topics relevant to women with cultural, historical, and literary clarity and context to gain greater understanding. Over 100 Every Woman's Bible scholars, writers, and contributors, all women from around the world, invite you into a global community. Begin your journey today at everywomansbible.com. Tyndale's best-selling Every Man's Bible is also available at tyndale.com.
Moody Radio is thankful for support for businesses across the country, like Fellowship Home Loans. Whether purchasing or refinancing a home, Mike and Brian walk hand in hand with clients through the whole process. You can learn more about their approach to mortgage lending at fellowshiphomeloans.com.
Bringing Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania closer to Christ, one conversation at a time. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
They look at doubt, they know what they're talking about. It's time for Pretend Experts.
All right.
Got to push enough buttons around here.
No, there's a lot of buttons in there. I get scared when I go into your studio. We're pretty food heavy today on the Pretend Experts. I don't know how that... I don't know how it happened. I did eat breakfast today, so. All right. McDonald's is reportedly working on a new $5 value menu as consumers will pull back on fast food spending. According to CNBC, the proposed meal could feature a McChicken or McDouble, 4-piece chicken nuggets, fries, and a drink. The move comes after the CEO recently said McDonald's has to be, quote, laser focused on affordability to attract diners. What do you think? A $5 value menu.
I still think $5 is too much for a meal at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate the fact
chicken nuggets.
I feel like I appreciate that they're finally doing something because their prices are outrageous, but $5 is still too much for what you're getting.
I haven't been to McDonald's in a minute. What are we paying these days for a meal?
I think I saw online, like someone actually did the comparison, like before the pandemic to now, and the prices have doubled. We're talking like $11, $12 for a meal.
I know. I went to the Christian chicken place. Total was 3 sandwiches and 1 kale salad, $20.
Guys, they are chicken nuggets shaped like boots, please. Wow. Okay, and also the McChicken or a McDouble, aren't those a part of their dollar menu?
They don't have a dollar menu anymore. They got rid of that years ago.
This is upsetting information.
Yeah. Me too. That was my favorite.
I love a McChicken from the dollar menu. And you could get a McChicken for $1 and then a small fry or whatever it was for $1. And I can't do that? Well, this is upsetting.
And I wouldn't mind if they shrink the size of their sandwiches down.
I would. I mean,
becomes a slider.
Shrinkflation, inflation, it's all bad. Just manage your prices better.
Be better with your chicken. Okay, so what do we think? You're happy with the value menu, $5? Or are we just mad in general?
I'm just mad.
Ron?
I appreciate their effort. It's a good step in the right direction. I mean, they've had to pay their help astronomically more than they used to.
True.
And they're probably paying their executives astronomical amounts anyway, so somebody's got to foot that bill, and it's us.
I would like more than 4 pieces McNuggets if I'm going to pay $5. I'll say that. All right. This one's for Daria.
Okay.
Well, maybe for Ron, too. The first of a new batch of Lord of the Rings films will release in 2026.
Why is this one for me?
Because it's a movie.
Okay.
Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, will focus on the character Gollum, and we'll see Andy Serkis, is that how you say his last name? Reprise the role from the original trilogy. Serkis will also serve as director and animated film from the franchise titled The Lord of the Rings, The War of, oh gosh, I should have read this word, Rohirrim? Set to release
Rohirrim.
Rohirrim?
Yeah.
December 13th. Okay, Daria. A new batch of Lord of the Rings films. What do you think?
You're never going to match the quality of the original. Even The Hobbits was like pretty meh compared. And the last Lord of the Rings project they did on Netflix, which I did not watch, I read a lot of reviews and it was horrible.
Oh, really? I didn't watch it either.
So I don't have a lot of hopes for that.
Ron?
I love it. More Lord of the Rings, the better.
You like Gollum?
I do. I really do. I think Andy Serkis was genius as Gollum.
Oh, he was.
So maybe.
So spooky.
Yeah. Yes, my precious.
How do I feel? I don't know. I just sometimes get overwhelmed when they keep trying to make more and more movies.
I think I saw this recently. Franchises can no longer end.
Yeah, they gotta keep going.
Stories have to have an end. At some point, you're out of things to say, meaningful things to say, but they keep rebooting these things because we got to make more money.
The prequel.
Yes.
And this one is the prequel of Gollum of whatever. It just keeps going on.
It's enough. Stop, please.
Yeah.
No more prequels.
Please stop.
It's either more prequels and sequels, or we're going to recast everything. If it was all male, we're going to do all female. If it was all white, we'll do it all black.
Yeah.
And just change it up. But, basic premise is the same.
Yeah, they're doing the same with Harry Potter. They're coming out with like a new show or whatever, I guess. It's
Are
like,
they? Just let sleeping dogs
You
lie.
have however many books and however many movies.
You come to the satisfying conclusion, and then you got to revamp it.
You got to redo it.
Like with Star Wars, we were all content to think they lived happily ever after. But no, we got to have 3 more movies that all sucked.
Okay, is there anyone that the second movie or third movie is better than the first? Any series?
Empire Strikes Back, which is the second Star Wars, is better than the first.
Okay.
The original trilogy is great, but then they wouldn't stop.
They just kept going. What do you think, Ron? What's a series that has a better second or third movie than the first?
I can't think of one off the top of my head. Seems like The Matrix, they got worse as they went on.
Yeah, I can't think of any either.
The second Toy Story is considered to be better than the first.
Oh, Daria. Yes, that is true.
It's a really good movie.
All of those, the ones that came after are good. The last one I didn't like, but all the ones that came after, number 3 is really good at the daycare. Love that one.
They kept getting better.
Yeah, and then the one where, oh my gosh, where Andy gives them up. Oh, I sobbed. So, okay, Daria, how dare you? I'm gonna cry now.
Sorry.
Okay. Chuck E. Cheese's infamous animatronic band is heading for a breakup.
I didn't know Chuck E. Cheese was still around.
I didn't know the band was still together. The New York Times reports that the pizza chain,
that's a stretch.
I don't know if we can call it
a stretch.
Pizza chain. This is not Domino's. Okay. The New York Times reports that the pizza chain will be getting rid of Munch's Make Believe Band. I didn't even know I had a name. Munch's Make Believe Band at all but 2 of its more than 400 locations by the end of the year. The band will only remain at one location in Los Angeles and another in Nanette, New York. Chuck E. Cheese's chief executive told The Times the change is part of what's described as the chain's, quote, most aggressive transformation.
What?
Yes, transform, please.
You're a kid's arcade.
There's a lot of things in here. First of all, you're not a pizza chain.
I was under the impression they just got a bunch of Jacks from the grocery store and put those in the oven.
Yeah, exactly. Number 2, everyone's scared of Chuck E. Cheese in that giant suit.
Oh, yeah. It's horrifying.
Okay, so what do we think? Are we happy? Are we happy that they're getting rid of Munch's Make Believe Band?
I don't know that it was much of a draw.
I don't think so either.
And I'm sure animatronics like that require a lot of repair and upkeep. So it probably is a financial saver for them to get rid of it. Not have to have, a mechanic on duty 24/7 to fix it.
Yeah, I'm for that. Those things are what nightmares are made of.
Yes. If you've ever seen any of Five Nights at Freddy's, it seems to be the animatronic nightmare version.
Yeah, they're all quite scary. I know I've been to Chuck E. Cheese's. Chuck E. Cheese. Not sure. Mr. Cheese. And I just don't think I really remember it being like, oh, I'm excited to go see the band.
Right.
I think it's a good idea they get rid of it.
Yeah, you're going there for the pizza anyway.
Or the arcade games.
Yeah.
Why did we go there? Okay, this is my all-time favorite one. Woman sues Cold Stone over pistachio ice cream ingredients. A New York woman is suing Cold Stone Creamery over its pistachio ice cream. She said that instead of the nuts, the dessert has pistachio flavoring.
Oh.
Her lawyers wrote in court filings that she would not have purchased the product if she knew it did not contain actual pistachios. A federal judge in Brooklyn ruled that the class action suit can move forward.
Wow. I'm a little surprised. Does she really think, like, when she goes shopping, everything that says something really contains that? You know, like,
Right.
I think you should be able to assume that, though.
But also at Cold Stone, can't you see the ice cream they're putting in your cone?
it's not chunky. Yeah. I'm surprised the judge let it slide, but go ahead, move it on to the next court who's going to say, what are you, crazy? So many things. Like I did a moron moment a week or two ago about the term chocolatey.
Yes, I remember that.
And that's how they get around that. They don't have enough chocolate in there to be called chocolate. So it's not chocolate cookies, it's chocolatey cookies.
Or like the Kraft singles are only like 51% actual cheese.
Yeah,
There's a legal definition of cheese and they don't meet it.
Yeah, those freak me out.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have said pistachio-y ice cream. Pistachio flavored. I guess they should have said pistachio flavored ice cream.
That doesn't roll off the tongue, though.
No.
Because you get like a strawberry lemonade. It doesn't have strawberries or lemons in it.
Yeah, just lemon flavors and strawberry flavors.
Yeah, no real juice.
I think the problem is our food is mutated.
Oh, yes.
And I don't like that.
No, but also, ma'am, if you're getting ice cream at Cold Stone, there's a lot of other stuff in there you probably don't want to know about.
That's very true.
Ew. And why are we suing people over ice cream?
Because
you didn't get
2024.
harmed. You didn't get injured. It didn't cause you some reaction of some kind. Why are we suing? Because
You're
it doesn't
right.
have pistachios in it.
Yeah.
I'll ask for a refund.
Yeah, sure. Or ask before you buy the ice cream, is this real pistachios or not?
Or just take your $10 loss and walk away. 'Cause that's
It's going to
expensive.
cost her more in legal fees
Yeah.
than her $5 Cold Stone ice cream.
She could have bought the Cold Stone.
She could have bought an entire Cold Stone franchise for her legal fees. Well, maybe that's what she'll do with her if she wins. How much are they going to award her if she wins?
Shouldn't be much, in my opinion.
Like $1,000 or something? That's a lot.
Yeah. That's a lot for that.
But I'm always surprised.
That's a
how
lot of
much-
ice cream.
Wow. Well, I'm sad for her, but also I don't really agree with her, so.
Yeah.
Well, that's been Pretend Experts. Up next, we have a pre-recorded interview with our friend Cisco Cotto. Brian recorded it for us before he went on vacation. So stick around and hear from Cisco Cotto.
I'm Cindy Farini, and this is Pause for Prayer. Do you sweep things under the carpet? I know some children out there, when in a hurry to do their chores, might do that. But I'm thinking about us adults who think if we don't see or talk about our troubles, trials, and deep hurts, that no one else will see them either, or maybe they will just go away. The great danger in that is that the carpet gets lumpy and obvious to everyone around. They and we walk around the lumps to avoid tripping over them, pretending not to see them. But they are getting so big that no one could miss them. Let's pause for prayer. Lord, we know that we can hide nothing from you. We know that by one lift of that carpet, everything would be exposed. We know that you, God, do that to our hearts. You open them and expose them to what we would want to see and need to see. Sometimes just to us you open it, and sometimes to many. Let us know what you see, our thoughts, intentions, and actions. We might think we are protecting ourselves and our loved ones by sweeping things under the carpet, but nothing can be hidden from you. You are aware of all of our difficulties. Help us to share our struggles with others who can help us and pray with us through these challenges. Help us to be available to others who are in a tough spot in life. Also, when sin is involved, let us have the humility to confess that sin to you, and that we would not displease or dishonor you. Let us go to others we have sinned against and make it right. Help us, Lord, to keep that carpet smooth so that our life is not a danger to others who might be looking to us as an example of the Christian life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
A teens community is on Snapchat or on TikTok. And so how would you go about like having both? Like I would want my child to have their community. I don't want them to feel left out. I want them to feel like they're connected. But also there is so much harm in social media. How can we have both?
Honestly, when you give your child Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is you're going to give them in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, whenever you're going to do that, does that automatically, magically make them so happy and like so loved? I mean, it really, truly, if we're honest, it does the opposite, that all of a sudden now it opens up this whole world of like, oh my word, I thought I was good looking, but now I see like a gazillion people who are better looking than me. Is that trait of drama and pain and constantly measuring themselves, is that pain worth it?
Brian with us now, Cisco Cotto, professor in pastoral studies at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, also morning show host on WBBM News Radio. Welcome back, Cisco.
Always good to be with you, Brian. Thank you.
So you've been preaching a series on work and rest, and I am an expert at resting, Cisco. I love a good nap, but I'm guessing that's not what you're talking about here.
Well, I think it can be part of what we're talking about here, but it's not the totality of what we are talking about here. But yeah, some of us do need to just take a nap.
I'm all in favor of that. Jesus napped, you know. I'm sure you've read that.
I haven't seen that, but please point it out to me.
Well, he was sleeping in the boat.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Exactly. I guess I didn't think of that in terms of napping. I was thinking about the theology of the passage.
No.
Yes, you're right.
Solid napper. He actually slept right through a storm. I mean, Jesus napped, so do I. But anyway, that's not why you're here. Good. So first of all, speaking of rest, generally speaking, since God rested on the seventh day, I'm presuming we can say that he would like us to rest. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, he not only rests on the seventh day, but then within the Ten Commandments, in his command for a Sabbath rest as part of the Ten Commandments, he roots that Sabbath command in the fact that he rested on the seventh day. So it's as though God's saying, I did this on purpose. I did this for a reason. This wasn't arbitrary that I rested on the seventh day. And in light of me doing that and trying to reveal to you how you should live on my earth, I want you to do what I did. And one of the big things is resting on the seventh day, on actually working rest and these rhythms of rest into our lives.
So why rest? Why does he want us to do that?
Well, the first one you mentioned, that it's because he did it, and so he wants us to mimic him, right? Like if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for us, kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's, I think, a big one. The other reason is the God, and for all the people who struggle taking a rest, whether it's daily or weekly or taking a vacation or whatever it is, for all the people who just struggle to slow down, this is what I want you to hear. God made us. He knows us better than anyone. He knows exactly what we need because he created us. And God has given us rest for our own good. He knows that we need this rest. And so we see it as some kind of a problem. I'm not going to get things done. I'm wasting time. I could accomplish so much more if I rest less. And God is saying, no, my child, I built you. I know what you need. I know what helps you to run well. And one of the things is you need to regularly rest.
And yet I could see someone saying, yeah, that sounds great. I agree with you. I stop for a few minutes on Sundays. I go to church. You don't understand how busy I am. I mean, we got the kids, we got the job, I got the lawn. Come on, I'm busy. So can I just minimize this down to a few minutes?
Yeah, that's what people would like to do, but we have to go to our heart. You and I always talk about the heart and how the heart really is the root of all things in our lives and our desires and why we do what we do. If you're going to say, God gave a Sabbath, God said, take one day and set it aside so that you're not doing your usual labor. If we're going to say that God set it aside as one day, and yet we're going to say, well, isn't 90 minutes on Sunday enough? I mean, as you say, Brian, I have so much to do in my life. I have a wife or a husband, I have kids, I have all this stuff going on. Then what we have to do is look at God and say, I know that you, my creator, said, take a day and shut it down. But you've given me so much responsibility. You've put so much on my plate, so much more than, creating the universe. You put so much on my plate that I can't possibly do what you have commanded me to do and what you have given to me as a gift. I'm just going to take 90 minutes and then I'm going to go back to work on Sunday afternoon.
And yet there's someone else who might say, listen, yeah, definitely, I'm all about rest, especially on Sundays. I volunteer in children's church. I go to worship. I volunteer at the church afterwards. They're doing ministry all day Sunday. Does that count?
I think that it does, in the sense that you are there serving and working, yes. But when you go beyond that, you have to ask, okay, does God want me to take a day? Or does God want me to take a certain segment of a day and rest? Remember, Brian, we talked about this is a gift to us. And if we embrace this as a gift, even though we might not believe it, even though we might be so tempted in our busy society to go and do other things, even though there are lots of responsibilities piling up, if we see it as a gift on this day, whether it is Sunday or some other day of the week, there are some people who work on Sundays. If we take this day and we say, God has given me this day to just relax. He's told me to do this. He's made me to do this. He knows it's for my good. This is a gift from God to me. Then I think, because we talked about the heart, then I think what we push through is that feeling of, I can't do this. Oh, I have too much to do. Oh, I'm too important. Oh, I can't do that. We push through all the things that are fighting against our embrace of the gift that God has given us.
Now, to what extent do you see this as a uniquely American/Western challenge to rest?
I think it's probably a challenge for everyone all over the world. I think our culture is the go, go, go culture. It is the it's all on me, individualistic kind of culture. If I don't do it, who's going to get it done? It's the individual achievement culture. And so I don't think that we are necessarily inclined to say, this work that I have, God is not going to give me more work than I can do. And so I'm going to say, it's not going to get done today. I'm going to work on it on Monday. Or again, whatever day you take as your day of rest. I'm going to shut it down. And if that laundry doesn't get done, if those dishes don't get done, if those papers sit on the desk, if the stuff doesn't get done in the yard, if there's not things that are accomplished for work, I don't get online and check the email and all of that. You have to ask yourself, if God has prescribed that, is it okay? Is it going to be all right? Or somehow are you going to miss out on something God wants you to accomplish by taking that day of rest? It's beyond a day of rest, but that's certainly one of the big ones that we push against.
You're listening to Mornings with Brian here on WCRF, Moody Radio Cleveland. Our guest, Cisco Cotto, professor in pastoral studies at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. When we come back from this quick break, we'll keep talking about rest and help maybe even define what it truly is and how we can experience it.
God's Word says a lot about music. From creation to the book of Revelation, you'll find songs, lyrics, songwriters, voices, and instruments. This month, join Today in the Word and our author Brian Lee for a devotional titled, Sing to the Lord, Music in the Bible. To get it, download the free app or go to todayintheword.com. todayintheword.com.
You see a huge group of people and maybe they're in line to do something and they seem happy about it. You have to wonder, okay, what am I missing? What's going on here? What are these people excited about? Well, in this case, it's thousands of people and they're joining MediShare. Why? Well, MediShare is a much more affordable alternative to health insurance. It's reliable, too. It's a well-run community of Christians. They've been sharing each other's medical expenses for more than 30 years, so it's proven. And if you switch, you'll likely save hundreds of dollars a month. Most members wind up paying about half what they used to. And you know what? They find they like it better. MediShare's member satisfaction rate is 98%. That's way better than health insurance, as you might imagine. You don't have to pay for things you don't believe in. You get telehealth 24/7, huge freedom in choosing your doctors. At least check into it. This may be one of those things where you're like, why didn't I do this a long time ago? Why not start saving now? Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Mornings with Brian. Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
This is WCRF, Moody Radio Cleveland. You're listening to Mornings with Brian, and you're jumping into the middle of a conversation we're having with our friend Cisco Cotto, professor in pastoral studies at Moody Bible Institute and morning show host at WBBM News Radio in Chicago. We're talking about rest, and he's been preaching a series on rest. And it's, I think, something that on its surface seems really simple, and yet many of us struggle to find rest and actually practice rest. So if somebody has found themselves super busy, wants to begin finding a day of rest in their lives, what, and this sounds weird, but what counts as rest, do you think?
There are a few things that we can do. If you look scripturally, that Sabbath is setting aside your regular work. It is setting a day aside as holy to the Lord, and in doing that, you're not engaging in your regular work. So if you're a plumber, if you sell insurance, whatever it is that you do, you set all of that aside and you say, I'm not going to do that activity on this day. And I think we can add some of our household responsibilities as well, whether we're working in the home, and so those are a regular part of our life, or they're just sort of chores that we do. I think we set that aside. We rest physically in that way. I think also this day, as it's set apart for the Lord, if it's on a Sunday, yes, you go to church and you worship the Lord. But I think there is an opportunity for us to set aside specific, unhurried time with the Lord to be able to really spend time in Scripture, to really spend time in prayer, to be meditating reflectively on who God is and what he's saying in this passage. So much of our time with the Lord is drive-by time. Yeah, I'm on my way here. I'm on my way there. I have 2 minutes before I go to bed or something like that. But if you can set aside that one day a week where you say, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to grab a cup of coffee, I'm going to grab my Bible, and I'm going to go into a quiet place, and I'm going to be here as long as I feel I need to be here. Maybe it's 30 minutes. Maybe it's an hour. Maybe it's 2 hours. Who knows? The more you start digging into God's Word, I mean, it's pretty awesome. And so it's this not setting a time limit where I have all this other stuff that's crouching in and taking away this time with the Lord. And so, yes, rest physically, absolutely. I get those things shut down for a day, but I do believe being intentional in spending some significant time with the Lord is also a big part of what we need.
What about hobbies on a day of rest? Do you think that's something that would count as rest? And I know it's really pragmatic to say something counts, but I think some of us need that level of specificity.
No, I really do when it comes to this. I mean, I think there are other ways that we can talk about rest, maybe another time where about vacationing and that sort of thing. But I think when you're talking about that one day of the week, I think hobbies are absolutely a part of that rest. You're shutting down your normal work. You're saying everything in that company or on that job site or wherever, it's not all dependent upon me. You're saying God can keep the world spinning without me doing that particular work. You're acknowledging that in putting it aside and saying, I'm going to shut it down. And then you say, this is a gift to me. How does God want me to spend this day? How can I spend this day? I had one seminary professor, a really godly man. He certainly understood the commands of Genesis and Exodus. And he said, I, at times, am going to lay on the couch and spend 6 hours watching football. and that's part of my Sabbath day. And he goes, I'm not going to do any of my work. I'm not going to do any of that. But I'm just going to say, all right, Lord, just help me to rest, to trust that you are enough, to trust that you are going to care for me, to trust that not everything is on my shoulders. And I'm just going to take a day for me and be honest. Doesn't it sound great to just take a day for you?
That sounds amazing.
That sounds so good. And God says, do it.
Yeah, and there's part of me that wonders if I'm even asking the wrong questions, right? If I'm like, okay, how do I rest? It's not some sort of job. It's not supposed to be a checklist, right? It's us stopping our regular activities and in some way appreciating something God's given us or spending time with the Lord.
Oh yeah, if you have a porch, sit out on the porch. And I'm not trying to be flippant here, because I do believe that a big part of that day is devoted to the Lord and set apart for the Lord, and you need to spend time with the Lord. And if it is Sunday, man, be there worshiping the Lord, and don't just be looking at the watch the whole time that you're in church. When is this thing going to be over, right? So I can get out of here. Really just say, man, I'm going to dedicate this time to the Lord this entire day. and then say, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to hang out with some friends. I'm going to play a game with my family. Maybe if family devotions is not something that can regularly happen because everything just pushes in time-wise, you say, no matter what, on that day at such and such a time, it's on the calendar. We're going to get together as a family for a half an hour or an hour, and we're going to look through some scripture, and we're going to pray for each other, and we're going to be disciplined about making sure that that happens. It is spiritually nourishing and physically nourishing, and both can be accomplished if we just put aside all of that stuff that's normally pressing in.
Can you dig in more to that nourishment? I mean, what could someone anticipate would be the benefits they'd receive from doing this?
Well, there are physical benefits to just resting. You know, the high blood pressure, right? The stress levels. Yeah, I think that is reduced when we do what God has told us to do by genuinely working rest into our cycle. That's one thing. There is a physical benefit to it. But there's the spiritual benefit in that we are, as we said earlier, we are acknowledging God is in charge. We're acknowledging that we trust God to care for our needs. We're acknowledging that we're going to be obedient to Him by engaging in this activity of rest. And as we are spending time on that day reflecting on Him, because again, he needs to be a part of this, reflecting on Him, spending time in His Word, talking with others, even in our family or friends, about the Lord, God is using that to provide spiritual nourishment in our hearts. He's feeding our hearts. And so this day, I would almost encourage people, try it for when there's a variety of things that go along with rest, but if we're just talking about the 1 day of week rest, try this for 3 months. And there's no magic number in 3 months. I just encourage you to give it a try for 3 months, 1 day a week, whatever day a week it is. I'm going to shut it down. No work, none of the household responsibilities. We're going to prepare ahead of time the day before to make sure we don't have those household responsibilities. And we're just going to shut it down. We're going to plan some time with the Lord. We're going to relax, go to a park, do whatever it is, read a book. As long as time with the Lord is included in that, some time of worship, and see how it changes things. See how it makes your heart change. See how it changes just your physical demeanor, your posture. I'm convinced when we do things God's way, we are benefited because we're doing what He designed us to do.
I'm feeling like as a side benefit of this discussion, it sounds as if you're fully endorsing regular naps that I take. You're like, Brian, good job. Keep napping.
I'm endorsing a Sabbath. I am not endorsing you pushing more work on your wife so that you can take a nap.
What about,
Are we
like
clear?
a daily nap? I feel like you said, Brian, yes, nap. I bless you. Keep napping.
That's not. You can rewind the tape. You can rewind the tape,
No.
but I don't think that's what I said.
No, it's not. It's not. Okay, I thought I'd try. We'll see. Again, Pat, sister, what am I calling you? Who are you?
On your Sabbath day, don't call me sister. On your Sabbath day, you can go ahead and take a nap on that day.
I'll take that. Cisco Cotto is a professor in the Pastoral Studies Department at Moody Bible Institute. And we highly encourage you to go visit the website for Moody, moody.edu. Again, moody.edu to learn more about studying under Cisco's teaching and others in the Biblical Studies Department and many other majors that you could choose from. Any other final thoughts for us, Cisco?
No, just always appreciate being with you. And just a final encouragement, just see this as God's gift. Take a rest. It really is God's gift to you.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
A bill to reauthorize the FAA for 5 years is heading to President Biden's desk. It's 6:59. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The House passed the legislation just days after the Senate overwhelmingly approved the bill. The $105 billion measure aims to improve aviation safety, enhance protection for passengers and airline workers, and invest in air travel infrastructure. A candlelight vigil is planned for tonight in honor of fallen Euclid police officer Jacob Durbin. Officer Durbin was fatally shot by a suspect while responding to a disturbance call this past weekend. The vigil will be held at Cuyahoga Heights High School, where Durbin graduated in 2018. And the cause of a tanker explosion yesterday at a Macedonia chemical plant remains unknown today. 3 people were injured in the blast at Royal Chemical. Of the injured, 1 person is being treated for life-threatening burns. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
Ever wondered if there's a way for Christians to meet their healthcare costs affordably and efficiently? A biblical lifestyle alternative to traditional healthcare options? The answer is Christian Healthcare Ministries. They've enabled believers to live out their faith while embracing a voluntary health cost ministry for over 40 years. It all starts with a visit to chministries.org/Moody to see how CHM meets values and healthcare costs. Get more information and have your questions answered at chministries.org/Moody.
In sports, the Cavaliers, well, the season has come to a close. They've been eliminated from the playoffs after falling to the Celtics 113-98, losing the best-of-7 semifinal series 4-1. For the Guardians, not much better as they fell to the Rangers 4-0, and the Pirates completed the trifecta by losing to the Brewers 10-2. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Patchy fog this morning, otherwise partly sunny skies, and highs will be in the mid-70s. And at last check, clear and 54 in Cleveland, clear skies 53 degrees. Akron and Canton, we've got cloudy skies in Youngstown where it's 53.
It's time for your moron moment.
Want to sell off some things as part of your spring decluttering? Whether it's a baseball card or a used car, there's an excellent tool to determine its worth: eBay. Don't waste time scrolling through the active listings. Instead, search for the item, then go to Filter and scroll to Sold Items. Check that box to enable this filter, and this will give you a better idea of the prices folks are actually willing to pay. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:02. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Do you ever wonder why success can feel empty? Why is more money still never enough? Or why relationships can be so hard? Try something different today. On your way to work, turn on your radio and join our conversations about life's deeper questions. And don't worry, we drop the pretense and don't take ourselves too seriously. But like you, we're looking for transformation in life.
When you allow someone to fully know you and still love you.
Join us for Mornings with Brian, weekdays starting at 6 a.m. on 103.3 FM.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
That's Lauren Daigle on Moody Radio Cleveland. This is Mornings with Brian. Did you like that song, Ron?
I liked it a lot.
Well, maybe you could hear it live on May 30th.
Really?
Yes.
How could I do that?
We have 5 pairs of tickets to give away to Lauren Daigle on May 30th at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. So enter to win. Text Lauren to 440-546-2255. Text Lauren to 440-546-2255 to enter to win a pair of tickets to see her in just a couple weeks.
All right.
Okay. Ron, if you got invited to give the commencement speech at your alma mater, what would be your, one takeaway? The one big note.
I would be like, really? Why? Why me? That would
Why
be my
they asked
takeaway.
You'd accept, go there.
Okay.
And you'd say, why did they invite me here? Okay, if you got to the stage and you're wearing your gown, what are you going to say to the students?
Don't be afraid. Fear not.
Ooh.
If I could make it, you can make it.
Yes. Daria, what would your big takeaway for your alma mater graduates be?
Don't be afraid to make a big change.
Okay. So a lot of don't be so scared.
Yeah.
I think I would say, I don't know, I'd obviously need some time, but something to the effect of it's going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like when people are graduating, they're so nervous about what's next. A lot of them haven't figured out their next step. They may not even have a job. They're like, oh, I need to, take this summer to find a job.
A lot of them are already going, why did I get this degree?
Yes, exactly.
I know several people that wanted to change their major in their junior year, but by that point it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. You've already taken so many courses in your major. It's like, well, I'm not going to change now or I'll be here another year.
Another 2 sometimes.
Yeah. Yep, totally. So a lot of, hey, it's going to be all right. Maybe you're a little scared right now, but you're going to be all right. Well, Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs had the opportunity to do so at Benedictine University or college, Benedictine College. It's in Kansas. So Harrison had the opportunity to give the commencement speech, and people are pretty mad at him.
Oh, must have been quite a speech.
Yes. So he's a 3-time Super Bowl winner with his team. He's continued to be outspoken about his Catholic faith. Benedictine is a Catholic college.
Okay.
Recently, he delivered the commencement address at Benedictine, which is a Catholic liberal arts college in Kansas. While attempting to unite the roles of citizen and, yes, Catholics, he turned the address into an attack on the current administration, and his words to the graduating women also ignited widespread social media backlash for what critics say was misogynistic and a defeating message.
Uh-oh.
What did he say?
I know. So I'm not going to get into what he said about the current administration. It's probably, the same old stuff that people are mad about, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm here to discuss. I'm here to discuss how he kind of was going into, he separated men and women in the class instead of just talking to the class in general.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, remember, he's talking to 21-year-olds-ish, okay, who are just graduating college. Also, some of them were affected by COVID-19. They started college in 2020. And so he addresses them by saying, I hope you learned the important lesson that suffering in this life is only temporary. As a group of you witness firsthand how bad leaders won't stay in their lane and have a negative impact on society. Okay, so instead of encouraging them, he's kind of always turning it into a message about something else.
Yeah. How does that apply to graduating students who are, like you said, very nervous about the future?
Exactly.
Especially in this economy that they're being handed.
Yeah, so he kind of, this is from, I think this article is Church Leaders. Yeah, this is a Church Leaders article. They said, Church Leaders said, soon it became a platform for him to list everything he felt was wrong with the world.
Oh, no.
Oh.
So not very encouraging, so it seems. He said, I never envisioned myself to have this platform to speak, but God gave it to me. So I think he just kind of took the opportunity to say what he wanted to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure God intended him to use the platform that way.
And I will give him credit, there are a lot of good things he did say in here.
Okay.
He's, embracing traditional Catholic values. And yeah, so he's saying a lot of good things, but they're also just he kind of turned it into some weirdness. He said, quote, I have seen at firsthand how much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise and move closer and closer to God's will in their life. If it glorifies God, maybe you should lean into that over something that you might think suits you better.
Okay, that's good.
Yes. He challenged the graduates to embrace history and tradition within the Catholic Church and faith. Obviously, my question as a Protestant would be like, well, can we embrace, like, not the history of the church and the tradition of the church, but like what Christ's teachings are and who Christ is? But that's what their religion and their faith says. He says, quote, when you rekindle your knowledge and adherence to many of the church's greatest traditions, you'll see how much more colorful and alive your life can and should be as you move on from this place, meaning this place college. Okay. So then he gets into, he talks about, quote, as my teammate's girlfriend says, familiarity breeds contempt, meaning Taylor Swift.
Yeah, it's got to be her.
So he said my teammate's girlfriend, which is just really funny in general. So he kind of uses this familiarity breeds contempt. He kind of starts turning the address to the women, to the graduating women. And he says, who have, quote, had diabolical lies told to them, which I would agree with. Our society, has told us we have to be perfect in all of these ways and do all of these things. So that's where he's turning it to. He says, many of you are sitting here now. Remember, this is to the graduating women. Many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage, and you're thinking about all the promotions and titles that you're going to get in your career. But I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you'll bring into this world. Then he shared his appreciation for his wife, Isabel, who is a homemaker, and he said, quote, I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I am on the stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. And he says something else. The next day says, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because the girl I met in middle school converted to the faith, became my wife, and embraced one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. First reactions.
Yikes.
Easy to say when you have a job that rakes in $4 million a year.
Yes, that is correct, Ron. I looked up this. So he said, I have, it makes my life easy because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. Well, you make $4 million a year.
Right.
Your wife doesn't have to work.
No, it is so insulting, one, to assume that a woman's value is tied to her wifehood and her motherhood, which there is value in that. But that is not her only value. Not everyone is called to be a wife or a mother or wants to be a wife or a mother. And even if she wants to get married and have kids, we live in a world where she has to work.
Yeah.
Very few people can afford, even if they want to be a stay-at-home mother.
Yes.
If you can make $4 million a year and not be able to balance your budget and keep your wife as a homemaker, then you're a stark raving idiot.
He said, quote, Isabel, his wife, Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you ask her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud.
Yes, she married a millionaire or a soon-to-be millionaire, depending on when they got together.
Yeah, his salary is $4 million a year. He has a $20 million 5-year contract with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yikes.
So someone on Twitter said, one of the worst parts of his speech is that he quoted Taylor Swift before telling women they should be homemakers and serve their man's career.
Right.
Taylor Swift, a 34-year-old single woman who is a billionaire.
Right.
So I want to know what you think. There are, as I said, there are some good parts into it. He has some nice nuggets of wisdom for people. But I think it's a little, number one, out of touch with who he's talking to. And number two, not the place. Like you're supposed to be encouraging these graduates. They've just completed their degree, and a lot of them are hopeful to go find something. A lot of 21-year-olds are not thinking about babies. I got married at 23 years old, and I still at 21 was not thinking about babies.
Well, you've told all these women who just put in 4 years of hard work, none of this matters because you're going to start popping out kids.
Yes.
Right.
That's awful.
Yeah, most go to college with the idea of pursuing a career.
Yes, or what if they never get married?
Very few, especially as the cost of today's college,
Right.
very few go for just looking for an MRS degree.
Yeah, or what if they don't ever get married?
Yeah.
they need something to fall back on, which is going to be a career.
Exactly. And even if they do, again, they probably still have to work because that's the economy that we've been handed.
That's exactly right. I did get married and I did have babies, and I could not live on just my husband's salary. So what does that mean? So I want to know what you think. Text or call 440-546-2255. What do you think about Harrison's comments at commencement?
We talk about the Bible. We listen to programs and sermons about the Bible. But at the very heart of it all, we spend very little time reading the Bible. Speaker and author Dr. Crawford Loritz.
One of the big disappointments and burdens on my heart is how readily we accommodate our biblical illiteracy. And I think if you've been a follower of Jesus Christ, over the course of your lifetime, we should have read through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation at least 4 or 5 times. And it's amazing the number of us who do not take the scriptures seriously. Somehow or another, we use the Bible as sort of like a screensaver, but not necessarily are we passionate about knowing it. And it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to submit to it.
Let's get into the Word, really get into it. A thought from Moody Radio. And catch Living a Legacy with Crawford Loritz, Saturday nights at 7:30, right here.
What is love? More specifically, what is agape love? This week on the Car Seat Questions podcast, we'll learn how to introduce our kids to the idea of God's agape love with Megan Clunan.
Find the Car Seat Questions podcast on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform.
If you've been thinking about a career in aviation, consider a Bachelor of Science degree in Missionary Aviation Technology from Moody Bible Institute. Flight majors earn an average of 325 flight hours, including over 100 hours of flight experience in high-performance aircraft. You'll be fully trained to get your private, instrument, and commercial pilot certification immediately after graduation. And you'll have a foundation in Bible and avionics technical training. Visit moody.edu/aviation. That's moody.edu/aviation.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
7:18. We're glad you're with us. Brian is out, but Ron and Daria and myself, Lauren, are here, and we're glad you're with us. We've been talking about the commencement speech at Benedictine College from Harrison Butker of the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay. We talked about, you can go find the link to yourself. It's on YouTube. It's all over the place, so you can go listen. A lot of his comments were great and kind. A lot of them are values that we ourselves as Protestant Christians would agree with. Our discussion here is he turned towards the women that are graduating and said, let me actually just read it. Okay. He said, quote, "Many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and thinking about all the promotions and titles you're going to get in your career. But I'd venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you'll bring into this world. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because of I have a wife who leans into her vocation as a homemaker. But it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because the girl I met in middle school converted to the faith, became my wife, and embraced the most important title of all, homemaker." And he is saying this to a group of young, probably 21 to 24-year-old women graduating college. And I understand some of the comments that he's saying, especially knowing his Catholic background. I think the problem is when he said it and to who he said it to. It's to a group of young women. He directed it to the women, to young women who are at their college graduation. They've just completed a 4-year degree, excited to go out into the world and use the skills that they just learned, hopefully. And he's saying, yeah, that's nice, but don't forget your life is going to start, which he literally said about his own wife, that her life started when she became a wife and a homemaker, which I think is out of touch about for where he is.
Right. We discussed how he's a millionaire, so it's really easy for him to say most women, even mothers, have to work in this economy. But I think what really bothers me about this, and this is not a him problem, this is kind of a larger church problem, is we instill men and women from a very young age, you are going to get married and you are going to have children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think God intends for everyone to get married or have children. Some of them are called to singleness.
Yes.
Right.
And so you have people that they're single for life or they're single for a significant part of their life, and they're very discontent because they don't understand that singleness can also play a part in God's plan.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Good point.
Ron, what do you think?
I'm thinking from the guy's perspective, he's also planting in their minds, these young men about to graduate, I should be looking for a woman and expecting her to be my wife and to be a homemaker. She's going to, take care of the domicile while I go out and hunt and gather and bring home the bacon. And it's not all, ideally, maybe that would work out, but it's not likely to work out that way for you.
Yeah.
And so if you've got that in your mind, that's what we tried to do, and it didn't work for us.
Yeah.
And that was a long time ago.
Yes. It doesn't work for my family. We would not be able to live off of one income with 2 kids.
Yeah.
But
it's unfortunate the way he went about it. If he would have said, in amongst your learning, understand that being a homemaker is a good thing. Being a stay-at-home mom is not an insult.
Yeah.
Because the past, we've had the feminist movement has often pushed that. Like, a famous first lady says, what am I going to do? Stay home and bake cookies? As if like that would be the worst thing in the world.
It's a lot of fun and tasty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, that would have been good. Or even just say, like, remember that family and God is most important.
Yes,
That would have been an appropriate thing to say to young aspiring professionals.
Yeah, or your value as a human is not in your degree.
Correct.
Or your accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to speak at, a Catholic college, your value is not in the things of this world. Your value is in God. Your value is in Christ.
And one of the things of this world that very good thing that he's trying to say a woman's value is solely based on is motherhood.
Yes, he literally said, my wife's life began when she became a wife to me.
That is, I'd be packing my bags if I were her. I mean, that is just so insulting to say to someone that you claim to love. That is so self-serving and so demeaning of her.
Yes, and says so much of what you actually think of even a relationship with Christ.
Right.
That your life begins when you become a wife, not when you surrender your life to Christ.
But he even admitted that she wasn't a believer when they met and that she became one. And he still says her life started when she started having my children.
Yes. It's shocking information. Okay, I'm going to go to some comments that other people on the internet have made. This is, some guy who has 6 million TikTok followers, okay? The point is, he seemed to be acting as if you should be ashamed if you don't want to be a homemaker, or I know you just really want to stay home and have babies. Yeah. Someone else said, not a word that Harrison said should be controversial. He's 100% correct. This is former wide receiver TJ Moe. Those trying to convince women that being assistant VP of lending and intentionally childless at age 40 is more fulfilling than making a family are evil. Sports and culture commentator Joe Root also posted saying he should be expose the lies that the world has been telling women. Women are wrongly encouraged to climb the corporate ladder, view children as a burden, and see marriages as not worth pursuing. Someone else, a neurosurgeon, Betsy, said, I am moved. I actually had no idea that my life began when I met my husband. And she's a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, I think a few of her clients are glad that she was living in the neurosurgery area,
They're
too.
Also glad that she went to college and did graduate and had a degree.
Yes.
We had some, so feel free to text in. Let us know what you think. Text or call 440-546-2255. If your husband made $4 million a year, would you still work? If the answer is no, doesn't that mean you're more excited about being a homemaker than you are about your career?
I think that's a moot point because so few people even have that option, even if they want it. And I don't disagree in principle that, especially for today's young women, they have been told that all that matters is your career. I don't disagree with that sentiment, but to say it doesn't matter or that your only value is in being a mother is still incredibly insulting.
Yeah, I think the point of his speech is is that you don't have to find your value in, climbing the ladder. And that's
Right.
true.
Mm-hmm.
I think how he delivered it and kind of going to the extreme, opposite, was not helpful either.
Right.
Someone said, certainly the delivery could have been polished more, but I believe his principle was spot on. And then I would ask you, what principle?
Right.
That people's lives start when they become, no, not people. When women's lives start when they become a wife and a mom? Does your life start when you become a husband or a dad?
Yeah.
Or do you have value outside of being a dad and a husband?
I'm much better since I've married Dana.
Of course, me too. I'm way better because I married Eddie, but my life did not begin then.
Mm-hmm. And which is it both? Like if you have to be married and a parent?
Oh, I don't know. It's a good thought.
And what if you have a child out of wedlock?
Exactly.
Has your life started or not?
Yeah.
Are you know?
Yeah. I think, as I've said many times, I think his ideas were helpful and good, and they make sense. I think how the time and place was not the time and place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking to a group of 21-year-old women who are just graduating college. They're trying to be excited. They went through college through COVID.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to be excited about, what's next for me?
Yeah.
And maybe they haven't found their husband. Maybe they won't until they're 35 and they're currently 21. Can you let them be excited about that they just graduated college instead of saying, well, don't get too excited because your life isn't going to start for however much longer?
And to be honest, he says their thoughts are on who they're going to marry and the children they're going to bear. I think their thoughts are on, can I walk up those steps without tripping?
Oh, absolutely, Ron. That was honestly one of my greatest fears.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to fall on my face on this stage right now.
Mm-hmm.
If those gowns are too long,
right.
If you're wearing cute little heels, absolutely not. Where did it go? One text. Where did it go? Okay. So many problems here. While he may have said many good things, all of that is drowned out by the discouragement he brought. His offensive statements reinforce bad beliefs held by men and disregard the value God has given the identity of women.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that's kind of really what sticks out to me is that one start of his phrase is that my wife's life started when she had, became a wife and had babies. And I was like, well, you say that you believe in God and you believe in Christ, but you think that nothing else, her life with Christ is not when her life started.
When she came to
Yeah.
Christ? No.
Yeah, exactly.
No. That was just a precursor to her having babies.
Someone said he tried. His delivery was off. I know at my graduation, I was still hurt over a heartbreak that day. That's so true. So many people go through a lot of stuff during college. Mm-hmm. So if I heard that, it would have reinforced the lies that I'm nothing until I get married and have kids. Now, almost 12 years later and single, the Lord has had different plans, and they have been good plans. But does my life not begin until I get married? So the last 7 years as a missionary? Not the last 2 years of being a teacher? It's not important? That's not what the Lord says in his words.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends that are single and have hardly ever dated, and they're really discouraged. They want to be married, they want to have kids, but for whatever reason, God has not put the right person in their lives. So when I think of a speech like this, I think of them. They have to find other ways to be productive and live out God's plan for them than what this guy is saying.
Yeah, someone texted in just thinking about the kicker in his speech. Does that mean that Mother Teresa's life didn't count? She never married and she didn't have kids, but look at the thousands of lives that she impacted.
Good point.
Mm-hmm.
And she's Catholic as well, so it would fit within his dynamic.
Someone texted in, when did his life start? Yeah.
When he signed a contract with the Kansas City Chiefs.
When he got a $20 million 5-year contract? Yeah. So just some things to think about. As I've said many times, though many may not hear it, there are a lot of good things that he said, a lot of good morals and values and traditions that he is upholding. And there were some really good nuggets of wisdom here that he had. But I think that the time and the place for his message was wrong. He took the opportunity that he had to kind of just like say all of his thoughts about everything ever. And that just like was not the time or place to do it. And instead of encouraging graduates, which is the job that he was given to do at this commencement, was to encourage them and, you know, commission them into what they're doing next, he instead kind of made them feel bad about themselves. Probably a large majority of them made them feel bad about themselves for just spending 4 years studying for nothing.
I think any college that's commissioning a commencement speaker should give them some basic guidelines like that. We want you to be overall positive. Remember, these are people looking at their future, help them to see good things in their future. When people come up and make it about themselves and make it like, well, I'm mad about this administration or about a war somewhere or about the economy, and you just start rambling. These students have nothing to do with that. They can't help what's going on there. And so you're spouting useless words to them.
Yeah. They're trying to have an exciting moment.
Yeah. Make it about them.
Yeah.
Or don't accept the invitation. Say, nope, I'm incapable of being positive. So
yeah, that's fine too. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
The thumper rule.
Isn't that what all moms have told us?
Yep.
Well, a lot of thoughts coming in. I'm going to set them aside for tomorrow. We have Pastor Scott Lessing on for Follow Up Friday.
Oh, good.
If you have more thoughts, text them in now or save them for tomorrow for Follow Up Friday. Coming up next, we have Ron and Anita Morrison. I am so thrilled.
Ooh.
So we'll get with them in just a minute.
Believers sometimes hide their hurts from fellow Christians because they're afraid of being judged or rejected. But Dr. Tony Evans says the church needs to be the safest place to seek encouragement and support. He uses an illustration from his son's football days as we spend 2 minutes with Tony.
When Jonathan was playing for Baylor, there was always cheerleaders. It's 40-0, and they just, what are you cheering about? The other team just scored, and you got pom-poms going. The job of a cheerleader is, in spite of how bad things are going on the field, is to support the team in their struggle. We don't need folks on the side saying, you no good playing people. You need somebody who on your worst day is still on your side. They are for you, even if they're not for your performance. The greatest cheerleaders should be found in the house of God. Not because they agree necessarily with the performance, but because they are supporting the person, because we want to see you reverse the score, change the scenario, move the momentum. We want to see a change. And so there ought to be somebody who's cheering. That's what encouragement does. Encouragement is from the Greek word that means to come alongside to help, strengthen, or support. So there must be in our church, any church, a system at work where believers are encouraging other believers to keep going even when they don't feel like it, because only by drawing near do you draw near not only to the Lord, but to the promise. That is God's fulfillment of his purpose in your life.
Learn more about how churches can reach their communities by clicking the Adopt a School link at tonyevans.org. Then join us next time as we spend 2 minutes with Tony.
It's not insurance, and that's a new way of thinking for some families. Christian Healthcare Ministries is a credible way to meet family healthcare costs affordably, biblically, and effectively, whether starting or growing your family. Serving families as a nonprofit healthcare sharing ministry for over 40 years, CHM has offered families the freedom to choose how they would like to meet healthcare costs. Be pleasantly surprised and find answers to your questions at chministries.org/Moody. That's chministries.org/Moody.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
All the things. Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
7:39 on Moody Radio Cleveland. This is Mornings with Brian. Brian is out this week on vacation. Ron is here. Daria is here. And me, Lauren, is here. And we also have Ron and Anita Morrison with us.
Woohoo!
Anita, you're going to need to move that mic closer to you.
Oh.
Or you can, yeah, there you go.
That works too.
People are not going to hear you.
All right.
And we got to hear you.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Pastor Morrison serves as the senior pastor of Hope Alliance Bible Church, and they're friends of ours. We're glad you're here.
Glad to be here. It's a blessing.
Always enjoy being here.
Indeed.
So, Pastor Morrison, you heard something we had going on a couple weeks ago. We talked about a pastor who was elderly in his age, and he was refusing to step down from the pulpit. He had hired someone who would be like an executive pastor maybe to kind of care for the other parts of the church, but he wasn't going to stop preaching. And he actually said that he wanted to die at the pulpit. So you had some thoughts about that. What are you thinking? As a pastor, we want to know what you think.
Yeah, that made me think about pastors who stay too long and also pastors who leave too soon. And now that I'm one of those older guys who needs to be actively involved in transition in some ways, I said, I need to speak into this.
So what, is it starting to happen at your church? Have you
Yes.
seen it happen at other churches?
Yes, it already started to happen at our church. It's going beautifully. But I did want to talk a little bit about why we really decided to do things that way. So first of all, we have far too many pastors who leave too soon.
Okay.
And there's a number of reasons for that. Some is just frustration, lack of financial support, or stressed, overloaded. A lot of times you're talking about a solo pastor who doesn't have the staff, and they always seem to find some greener pastures. And it's amazing how often the call to go somewhere else also involved a higher salary. And so there's a lot of guys who just flat out leave too soon. They tell us the average stay of a pastor is less than 5 years. It takes longer than that to get on the same page with the congregation and develop disciples. So I'm always concerned about the guys who leave too soon. But the other problem that you guys were talking about, and I said, I kind of fit this category, so I probably need to speak into this, is what happens when the pastor stays too long. I've seen a lot of congregations have long funerals because the leadership did not transition well. The pastor stayed too long. He was no longer able to preach with energy and excitement and reach the younger generation. But there's usually reasons why some of these guys stay too long. One of them is that's the only source of income. They did not plan well for retirement, or the congregation didn't plan for retirement. And so they kind of grow old together, and he feels like, I got to hold on to this. And the church, sadly, often dies because of that lack of development or preparation. Some of the guys, their whole identity is wrapped up in, I have to be the pastor. I am no one outside of this identity, and I got to hang on to it. And that's really sad.
Yeah.
To realize that who you are in Christ is more important than just who you are with the title of being the pastor of a church. And so some of the guys just will not let go because they feel like once I let go, my identity is gone. Sometimes it's a lack of self-awareness. You need to notice that everybody's falling asleep when you're preaching, if that's the case. And so preaching should never be boring. That's inexcusable. And if you no longer have the energy and the drive, you should have gotten out of the way and should have had someone else prepared. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Sometimes it's pride.
Yeah.
It's just flat out pride. I got to be the guy. I got to be the man getting all the attention, and they're too proud to realize other gifted people could do this job well also.
Yeah, I know a pastor where he started the church, and it's been, 30 or 40 years now, and they had never planned for his retirement. And so, maybe 10 years ago, he's like, hey, to the board of elders, he's like, hey, guys, I'm going to need you to start thinking about a retirement fund for me.
Yes, yes.
Because they weren't able to plan at the beginning, and they never did. And so I think for a lot of pastors, it's scary to have to think about retiring when they don't have maybe a good fund or haven't planned, their church hasn't planned for them.
Right.
Which I would say is the church's job.
It is.
And the board of elders' job is to help plan for him for that.
It is. I think that's one of the main problems of guys that don't step aside when they should.
Mm-hmm.
They did not plan, the church didn't plan, or the church couldn't afford. Someone needed to come alongside and say, hey, we need to plan how you're going to be provided for. And we know the Lord provides, but he still expects us to plan. God works in plans.
Yeah.
So it's okay to plan for retirement.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen maybe from the congregation a hesitance to accept someone new? And that's also a reason the pastor may not want to step aside. He's feeling nervous for his flock because he sees that they're nervous.
I've seen that a lot, and that goes to the problem that I want to address in a few moments. The pastor and the congregation did not plan for the inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is this fear that the next guy isn't going to be well received, or congregation split over arguing who should be the next guy. All of that should be avoided if we do the things we're supposed to do.
Yeah, you should be talking about that kind of stuff
Exactly.
for a while in advance.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's not a surprise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we've got more to talk about. We'll be right back with Ron and Anita Morrison of Hope Alliance Bible Church in just a moment.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity's support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838. That's 1-800-659-9838.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that is MediShare. And maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save many families up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true people are way more satisfied after making the switch too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years. Members have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. See what you can save. This is a very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Keeping your eyes on Jesus in a changing culture can be difficult. Let us help. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
747 on Moody Radio, Cleveland. This is Mornings with Brian. We are joined by Ron and Anita Morrison of Hope Alliance Bible Church. We have been talking about, there was a pastor several weeks ago, we discussed this, who is elderly, and he was not going to be stepping away from the pulpit. He was going to let someone else handle the administrative duties of a pastor, but was not going to step aside from preaching. And we just talked about, when's the right time? How do you do it? Should you be waiting until, like this pastor had said, I'm going to die preaching? Or should you be maybe making plans before then? And Pastor Morrison, you had some thoughts about making plans before this happens.
Yeah, there's a verse in Galatians 6 that we all quote. Verse 7 says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever one sows, that will he also reap." But the verse right before that, and I love context, it says, "Let the one who is taught the word share all good things with the one who teaches." And then God says, don't be deceived. He's not mocked. You reap what you sow. I believe congregations should look at that and say, the Lord is telling us we need to take care of the people who are feeding us the word of God. And you're going to reap what you sow if you don't do that. And so a lot of these guys who are hanging around too long, they didn't prepare, or their congregations didn't prepare for the inevitable. the time may come when physically you can't do the job that you love, that you want to do. And so that goes back to what we should have been doing all the time, preparing other leaders, preparing for transition. It sounds like some of these guys, they so love Moses and Joshua, and well, Moses led until he was 120, and then he died on the job, and then the next guy steps in. There's other ways to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of times we like to think that our pastor has to take care of us, and he does. He has to care for his flock and for the spiritual needs of his flock. But it's our job as a congregation to also care for him.
Yes, exactly.
Because if we don't, who's going to? And there's a lot more of us than there is our one or two pastors. And I think we forget that sometimes. We think that the pastor has to give us all of our needs and our desires and our wants, and he needs to take care of us, and he's supposed to have the answer to everything. And then we neglect his needs as well. We neglect. You want a retirement fund, right? So why doesn't your pastor want one?
Exactly.
And you as a congregation are the ones paying those things for him. And so I think we often just forget that as people of the congregation.
Yes, I agree.
What have you guys done for your succession planning at Hope Alliance?
There's a verse in 2 Timothy chapter 2 that I've always had this at the forefront of my ministry, where Paul told Timothy, 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1 says, "You then, my child, be strengthened by the grace that is in Christ Jesus, and what you have heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also." So we look at that saying, okay, there's Paul, one generation, and there's Timothy, second generation. Timothy, you teach faithful men that can teach others also. So you're really looking at a 4-generation process of leader preparation. And so what we felt we should always be doing, and I think a lot of small churches don't do this well, is always be thinking, who's next? And am I speaking into the life of the person who's going to take over? And so we have already started transition. Dr. Aaron Bell is already our lead pastor. I'm still the senior pastor. I still love to preach. I would preach every Sunday and not complain. But it's a joy to see how he and Amisha have stepped up. They've taken the lead on nearly all of our ministries. I'm still there to coach and to mentor and to share on the preaching team and also spend more time in leadership development. So for years, the congregation has already been hearing his voice. And so when I completely step aside, if that happens, there'll be not one thing that drops. If I died today, they'd mourn for a little bit, but next Sunday service would go on just as smoothly.
Maybe not just as smoothly.
There wouldn't be the trauma of a search committee, a pulpit committee, and who's the next guy. You should do that well in advance and let the next man up already be in position. It's working so beautifully at our church that other people have asked, how can we do this?
Wow.
It's what we should have been doing all the time.
Yeah.
To let others be in position to succeed us, because we never know when we may not be available.
Yeah.
And the church will suffer if you've not prepared the next generation of leaders.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's just good stewardship of the ministry that God has entrusted you with.
Right.
You need to take care of it and plan for it when you're not around.
Yes.
Yeah. It's God's ministry. It's not ours that we get to control, and it dies with us.
Right.
You want it to continue and you want it to flourish. Exactly. And the only way for that to happen is to prepare for it.
Yes.
So will you have, once you retire, he'll have had, he's preaching once a month, and then it's twice a month, and then maybe it's 3. Is it going to be like a progression like that? Slowly it's going to become more and more?
Well, for the first time in 28 years, I let someone else make out the preaching schedule. Which felt awkward, but Dr. Bell's already doing that. And so, but that's how the other guys felt, because I was always the one deciding when someone else preached.
It's like a surprise. Like, ooh, oh, that's when I'm preaching.
But that's just great I believe that's just how you prepare the next generation of leaders. Let them do the things that you were doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm available anytime I'm needed. I preach some Sundays. I can preach other places if necessary. But I feel like a father figure there. I'm there to coach. I'm there to mentor. I'm still very much involved in the ministry, but I'm not, as we say, running things like I used to. And it's been a very healthy thing for our church.
And I think
our marriage, by the way.
Yes, you're getting some more time, huh?
Indeed, just a little. He's very busy, but
you're getting more
help.
time. Yeah, I think I appreciate that you're giving yourself over to this new guy, that you're there for help and guidance, because he's going to run into things that he's never heard, learned, read about, but you probably have.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh yeah, I've seen it like 40 times. Like, yeah, nothing new, you know? And I think being able to have you as someone to get knowledge from and someone to be like, have you ever seen this before? That's so valuable to him as a new leader. That's going to put him 12 steps ahead of the next guy who's just being thrown in after he got picked by a search committee.
Mm-hmm. And no, we've had 4 guys from our church go out and lead the church, and one of those was Pastor Tanks. We were together.
Mm-hmm.
When he came, he said, I want to sit with you for 3 years and then go start a church. Well, we turned 3 years into 6, but that was fine. We enjoyed working together. But he's doing a great job now. And so I was always thinking of helping other guys get prepared to pastor, but also, like, at some point, I need to find the guy who's going to stay here.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Bell's been with us, I'll say 7 years. So everybody knows him, loves him. They've heard his voice, and he's just stepped in beautifully.
Yeah. How did you find him? Did you do something like a search committee? Was he already in your congregation?
Somehow I got the reputation of being the older guy that helps younger guys get ready.
There are worse reputations.
So he and his wife, they were also thinking of planting, but then realized that God was actually calling them to stay with us. And we have another gentleman there now who he and his wife were going to plant, but suddenly they said, we need to stay here. So we've got a team of preachers.
The walkers.
Now. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
The walkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of how we talk about parenting, where at first you have a really firm grasp, and then as you get an older teenager, you got to kind of start to let go.
Yes.
You kind of got to release the grip. How has that been for you to kind of let go of the congregation, let go of the day-to-day stuff?
It felt strange at first. I'll be brutally honest.
Yeah.
It did feel strange at first, but then I had to keep reminding myself this is how it is supposed to be. You have to keep preparing the next generation of leaders, and you have to let them do what they're called to do. And it's so beautiful when you're still there. He and I talk virtually every day. Neither one of us is going to get up and make some huge announcement in front of the church that the other guy doesn't know about. And so that's just a safeguard for everybody so you don't have this, well, Pastor Ron would have done it this way, well, Pastor Bell wants to do it that way. No, we talk about everything we're going to do as a church, so we always have a united front.
Yeah, that's great. Anita, what have you seen in this kind of transition time?
I've just loved it. I've seen the congregation joyful. Some of the elders have said, we didn't have to get a pulpit committee. We didn't have to. So according to Misha, they were looking on the internet when they were going to come back to Cleveland, and they said, "Oh, look at them! Oh, look what they're an older couple." I was like, "Really? No, but
she didn't need to tell you, even if she thought that."
It was so cute. And then it's been beautiful. The congregation has said, "I've never seen anything like this." They've just watched it blossom. And I kept saying, you know what? Ronald planted the church 28 years ago, almost 29 years ago. And we haven't had children of our own. So this is kind of our baby. I said, you know what? Just here's the young man, been courting her for 7 years. Just go on and give her away, Dad. And it has been beautiful. Just as you said, you got to let him go. So we are the parents, just like parents who give their daughter away. We're around. We're just, our roles have changed, but we're still there.
You're there for advice and guidance.
Oh, yeah.
Pitching in where things happen that we didn't expect, but here we are. And it's beautiful. Has it been a conversation with your congregation of, hey guys, this is why he's here, and like the time is coming, or has it just been kind of, we're bringing in this new
Organic.
guy? And
It was very organic.
It was a surprise when I announced it was going to happen
That was
because
hard.
I still feel young and energetic, but the calendar says I am a senior citizen. And so I said, I really need to do this. And we announced it really like a year before it actually happens.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for your guidance and your leadership of your church and of your flock for these 30 years and for doing this so well, for doing the transition so well. It's not done easily, I know. And my home church is going through it now. And they've done something very similar where they brought in a guy for years and he started preaching and, warm him up. So thank you both for your ministry and for trying to do it well.
Thank you.
Amen.
And setting up your church well.
Amen.
We have been with Ron and Anita Morrison of Hope Alliance Bible Church. Up next, we've got financial questions. What do you got? What do you have questions about? Any questions about anything? Dave will answer any question you have.
Literally any question.
And he'll act like he's known the answer for his whole life, even if he doesn't. So text or call with your financial questions now, 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The number of overdose deaths is down for the first time in 5 years. It's 8:01. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. New preliminary data from the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics shows about 107,500 people died from drug overdoses last year, but that's down 3,500 less than 2022. Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost is looking to remove 2 members from the State Teachers Retirement System Board. Yost filed a lawsuit this week asking courts to bar Wade Steen and Rudy Fichtenbaum from the panel that oversees $91 billion that is reserved in the pension fund for Ohio educators. And the Polaris Career Center will host a job fair this evening at the Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds. More than 160 employers in more than a dozen fields are expected to be represented at the event that will also feature food trucks and live music. The event is scheduled to run from 5 to 7:30 p.m. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
Classics. They're priceless. At moodyaudio.com, you'll find classics of a different kind, like Radio School of the Bible and Conference Echoes, plus Bible teaching from names like David Platt, A.W. Tozer, and Francis Schaeffer. There's Talking It Over with George Sweeting, plus stories of great Christians. Stream live or download the MP3s at no cost. Check out the archives page next time you visit moodyaudio.com. That's moodyaudio.com.
In sports, well, it's the end of the season for the Cavs as they have been eliminated, falling to the Celtics 113-98 to lose the best-of-7 semifinal series 4-1. The Guardians fell to the Rangers 4-0, and the Pirates completed the sweep for our teams as they lost to the Brewers 10-2. Here is your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. And patchy fog this morning, otherwise partly sunny, highs in the mid-70s. At last check, clear skies, 58 degrees in Cleveland. Akron and Canton have a fog being reported now, 54 degrees there. And in Mansfield, skies are clear and the temperature 56 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
Want to sell off some things as part of your spring decluttering? Whether it's a baseball card or a used car, there's an excellent tool to determine its worth: eBay. Don't waste time scrolling through active settings. Search for an item, then go to Filter and scroll to the sold items. Check that box to enable that filter. This gives you a better idea of the prices that folks are actually willing to pay. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:04 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
It is not intended to replace professional advice for your specific situation.
Wow, it is financial questions time with... Who's singing? Was that you or was that Dave?
That was me.
Okay. Dave, are you singing? Hello?
I don't think Dave's even there.
Dave?
Oh, no, we're trying to get him on Skype.
David.
Fine. I don't want to talk to you anyway, Dave. But actually,
we'll
I do.
make up our own answers.
No one wants that. Me and Daria gave a financial answer to one of Would You Rathers like last week, and apparently we were wrong. So, I don't know if I agree. I still think I'm right, but everyone said we were wrong, and then Dave said we were wrong. You remember that, Daria?
I do, and I disagree.
And then I asked my husband, and he also said I was wrong. And I said, well, that's why you handle our budget then. Okay. So get your financial questions in now, 440-546-2255. I don't know, maybe you have a lump sum of cash. What are you going to do with it? Text in your question. Oh, there he is,
I
huffing
hear
and
him
puffing.
breathing. That's not creepy.
Hello, Dave. Dave? Oh, he can't hear us. That's horrible. He can't hear us, but we can hear him. Get your financial questions in now, 440-546-2255.
Do you want to drop a song in while we try to...
Yeah, let's go to a song, and then we'll be right back with Dave Szfranski.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
The opinions expressed during this program represent the opinions of the participants and is given for informational purposes only. Any information provided is not intended to replace professional advice for your specific situation.
Okay, we are back. We are so back with
So
Dave
back.
Szfranski. We figured it out. Hi, Dave.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm fine. How are you? Where are you?
I'm working right now.
Where are you
in
working?
Hawaii.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there we go.
there it is.
Can I
Sure.
work in Hawaii?
No, you are not allowed to work
Josh?
in Hawaii. We'll take the show on the
You
road.
know what? Work there, and it gets so annoying because he's
You know what? We're not going to have any financial questions.
everything you're doing is really annoying.
What?
Huh?
You're cutting out, Dave. So all we heard
no.
is everything you're doing is really annoying, which is rude.
We're back on my headphones now. Sorry, the waves crashing is really annoying.
Oh my gosh.
that's it.
This guy. Okay. So Dave's obviously not in studio because he hates us. So we have financial questions. Text or call now, 440-546-2255. All kinds of questions, okay? About money,
good.
not about other stuff, only about money. All right.
Well, we'll find a way to the other stuff too, won't we?
No, I won't allow it.
Okay.
Okay. What are the penalties for taking some money from an IRA? I have about $20,000. I could take out $2,000 to help pay off bills. What do you think?
Well, I really don't like the idea of accessing retirement plans to pay off current obligations. I'd rather, barring an emergency, somebody saying, look, if you don't pay this bill, we're going to put your car in the back of that tow truck and we're taking it. I would try and avoid that because this money really is long-term. And what happens is there's a change in psyche when people start accessing their retirement plans. It becomes accessible now. And we really want that for later on in life. And if you let it grow, if it's invested even somewhat wisely, and you let it grow, there is the possibility of having quite a bit of money there. And so I would rather do a couple of other things first. And maybe they've already done these things, but I'd rather figure out, hey, how did we get here? What is it that we're doing that is putting us in a position where we're looking at our retirement plans to pay current bills? And secondly, I want to know what their budget is. And I could tell you almost to a person. Again, absent an unforeseen circumstance, these things happen because we're not really following our money as closely as we should be. Now, you don't need to be one of the big three accounting firms with your budget. You don't need to be that close, but just knowing the details, even the minute, not necessarily the minute details, but the big details, like, income and all of your expenses, the have-tos, the ones that you should know about, like electricity and gas and things like that, rent or your mortgage payment. Just knowing these things and not eating out as much will save you incredible amounts of money, and it can help you avoid these. So if somebody was sitting in my office right now and saying, well, I'm going to access my retirement plans to pay off my credit card bill, I would really discourage it. I would say, look, let's see if we can figure out a plan, even if it takes a couple of months to do this without accessing my retirement plans. Now, the penalty is 10% of whatever you take out if you're under the age of 59 and a half, and it's taxable to you. So you're really going to pay, depending on your tax bracket, 35 or 40% of whatever you have to take out. So if you have to pay a $1,000 bill, now you got to take out $400 just to meet that $1,000.
Yeah, that doesn't sound worth it. But Dave, sometimes I want a sweet little treat. Why are you telling me I can't eat out?
Yes. Well, look, Lauren, work on your cooking. Everybody will be happier. Or get Eddie to cook better. Tell him, look, you can't just cook on the grill, Eddie. You got to put something in a pan. Okay, I need you to have recipes for this family. But I understand what you're saying. I get it. We all get to that point where, like, man, if I could just, and then you fill in the blank, whatever that blank is for you. And we have to fight these things. We have unlimited wants, needs, and desires, but we have limited resources, and therein lies the crux.
Yeah.
Limited resources. So how can we make it work and be reasonable? And every once in a while, it does make sense to say, hey, let's do something nice that isn't going to break the bank. And I remember when LaVon and I were first married, we had no money, none whatsoever. And so at the time, in the winter, Cedar Point, the hotels around Cedar Point would offer like a pizza movie deal in a room, and you could take the kids up and go swimming. The kids loved it. It was great. Was it great for LaVon and I? Well, yeah, it was nice because we got to do something a little bit different, and it was reasonable, and we looked for things like that. Actually, my wife looked for things like that because my wife is the budgeter. LaVon is the budgeter in our family. She's very detail-oriented. She's always been good with money and good with the budget. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. It doesn't need to be both of you, but it would really help if it was one of you who was really tight with that budget.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still going to get a Dairy Queen to celebrate some stuff sometimes, okay, Dave? But I'll keep it within my food budget. Okay, I'll keep it within my food budget category for the month.
Yeah. Now, do you get are you going hamburger, fries?
No, I'm getting ice cream.
Like a Blizzard?
Yeah, just
okay.
a Blizzard,
Really
Dave. I've never eaten actual food at Dairy Queen. Has anyone ever eaten actual food at Dairy Queen?
Yeah.
Once or twice. Their chicken's not bad, actually.
Oh, wow. Well,
really good burgers.
I guess my food bill's going to go up this month. Gotta go try some Dairy Queen.
You're welcome.
All right. Financial questions with Dave Szfranski. Text or call 440-546-2255. Any questions you have, 440-546-2255.
That.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland.
I'm married.
Is Hawaii better than your beach at your house?
It's a close second.
Oh, wow. All right, get your financial questions in now, 440-546-2255. Dave, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you think the stock market is going to do this year? Should I put my money in cash? I lost $7,000 last month.
Yeah, we'll have months like that. My mom told me about those. They are hard to look at sometimes, but, if you own good things and you believe in those good things, good companies, good mutual funds, good ETFs, I think in the long run, you're way better off holding most of those things for longer periods of time and not selling into sometimes the hysteria that happens in the market. But it doesn't mean that you don't change some things. For instance, interest rates are high, and so you can make money off of some bonds and money markets right now. So it doesn't mean you don't change the composition of your portfolio around. And we've done some of that this year and last year. But I do think that depending on, I don't know if you knew this, but we're in a presidential election year, so there are some things that are going to happen. They're going to have a big impact on the direction of the market, because on the ballot now is taxation. There's one party who says if you vote us in, we're going to raise your taxes, which I find a very odd campaign promise. And there's another party that's running that says if you vote us in, we're going to lower your taxes and cut spending. And, you know, one of the things that we've seen happen, and we've talked about this, I think, almost ad nauseum, is inflation has impacted us so dramatically. Walmart came out with their earnings today, and they beat. So they've had good quarters. And one of the things, when you drill down past the first paragraph and kind of the headline stuff that Wall Street looks at, you find out why they did those things. Why is Walmart doing so much better than everybody else right now? And I've always called Walmart the ultimate trade-down stock. So things are bad. Things are not going well. Everything's getting more expensive. People who would normally shop at higher-end stores are trading away from those stores and going to Walmart just to make ends meet. And so I'm glad Walmart is doing well. They serve a vital role in the economy. But the reason that they're doing well isn't really that great of news. And even in the inflation report that came out yesterday, inflation did drop. The rate of inflation did drop a little bit. But when you look at the overall increase in inflation, it's dramatic in a lot of places. And rent is one of those places where it's staying stubbornly high and rising. And, you know, so when you look at those things do affect portfolios. I would imagine that if the election goes the way that I think it's going to go, the markets will do okay. And there'll be a lot of hope that we can trade on. I call it hopium. We're going to trade on some hopium for a while until policies are enacted. But I do think that the market will do okay this year. And it's doing okay now because a lot of big companies are reporting good earnings. And consumers are still spending. There's no doubt about that. It's just what they're spending on is kind of transitioning to more the have-tos. If you look at consumer debt right now, it is the highest it's ever been in history. That is not a good sign. If you look at the employment reports that have come out, mainly a third to even more of those employment reports are government jobs added. Not a good sign. Full-time hours worked dropping, part-time hours worked skyrocketing. Not a good sign. There's all these little kind of chinks in the armor, but I think if the election goes the way I think it is, I think we're going to be okay and the markets are going to go higher.
Kind of digging into that, Mayor Phil asked, what do you think of the inflation report that came out yesterday? Everyone says it's cooling, but it doesn't feel that way.
It doesn't feel that way because there are some, and we love Mayor Phil, of course.
Yes, of course.
One of our favorite people. Is he our favorite person from WCRF? It's quite possible that he is.
Oh, wow. There's three of us sitting right here pretty offended. So
I'm not offended.
Well, I mean, listener, our favorite listener.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought you meant person that works at WCRF. I was like, well, Dave, we're not going to make it a competition, but it's obviously me.
No, yes, we are. We are going to make it a competition.
Mayor
Lauren's
Phil.
your favorite because you're afraid of her.
Because he has to be.
That's right. So these little sections of the inflation report that are so stubbornly high and showing no reason to capitulate, that's going to keep inflation high. And food prices are up over the last 3 years and some change now.
Yep, it's bad.
Over 20%. 20%.
Yeah. $9 for a bag of grapes, Dave, please.
Yeah,
I'm still not getting grapes. I'm still not buying them.
Just give your kids Cheetos. Cheetos are probably less expensive.
He's allergic to cheese, so try again.
I'm sorry. Yeah, those things, though, what that does is you are living on the economic margin where a lot of people do live.
Mm-hmm.
If you're living there and you see $9 grapes, you're not buying grapes. You cannot afford things like that.
Yeah, I'm just going to get a different fruit.
Right, and and you couple that with all the time and effort that's gone into the new Green Deal, which is raising our energy costs, and cheap energy, cheap, reliable, and repeatable energy is really the mother's milk to a strong economy. It's the thing that grows an economy and gives it a backbone and strength and longevity and staying power. And we're targeting cheap, reliable, repeatable energy right now. That's what we're doing. We're going to make you drive an EV, which is quite possibly the dumbest thing we've ever done, but we're going to do it anyway. Why let good sense get in the way of a policy? But what they're doing is by doing this, they're really hamstringing our economy and making it almost impossible to bring inflation down. So the rate of inflation might slow a little bit, but inflation is not coming down. It's still rising. It's still going up. So don't get fooled into thinking that inflation's coming down. It is not.
Yeah. Even though they say it is, it's not. Okay. I changed my employment 2 years ago, and my 401k has been hanging out at my prior job. It's a retail business. I'm not sure it's doing well at the moment. What should I do? If I pull it out, where should I put it?
Yeah, even if it is doing well, I generally don't recommend that people leave 401ks back at old companies because they only are required to report to you quarterly, and generally there's not as many choices in your 401k that I would love versus another place that it could be. And that other place is you could pick up that old 401k and drop it right into your own individual retirement account or your own IRA. And you could do that anywhere, any big investment company like the Fidelities, the Schwabs, the Vanguards, anybody. You could do it at Joey Schmuckalovich's investment company if you wanted. So
I love that guy.
You have all these, he's great. He's really good at investing. He's strong in the pierogi market. So you pick up that old 401k, you move it over, and now you could buy anything. You could build a portfolio that is really meant for you. So we deal with this one company that has the worst 401k I've ever seen, and it's with a big company. And what they do is they say, well, we're going to give you a score, and we're going to invest the money for you, and you have no say in it. And so you have young people who are owning things that they would never own in a regular IRA, but because of the way this 401k is set up, they just don't have a lot of options. It ought to be criminal, but it's not. And so don't leave 401ks back in old companies. Always, and you could do it very inexpensively. There's no taxes. There's generally no penalties. If there is a penalty, it's imposed by the old 401k because sometimes those are in annuities, which you know how I feel about annuities.
Mm-hmm.
But pick them up, bring them to your own IRA, sit down with a professional or talk to somebody, at the big company, and you can buy anything you want and have a personalized portfolio. And that's what I really love about investing is you could do it. It's like the old Burger King commercials. You can have it your way.
All right. I am 75, a widow living in an apartment, and I have a life insurance policy for $100,000 and a fund for $170,000. How do I set this up as a trust so my sons and their families don't have to pay taxes on it when I pass?
Well, I have two pieces of great news for you. Oh. One, your kids are not going to have to pay taxes on it when you pass. Oh. So the estate tax laws are such that you could have almost $20 million now and pass it on, and there's no tax paid. And even when you are over the federal estate tax limit, which, by the way, when the Trump tax cuts expire, will go back down to a very low number. So another reason to think about these things. But when you do pay estate taxes, it's the giver that pays the estate tax, not the recipient. Now, there's a caveat to this, and the caveat is if you have an IRA, if you have a retirement plan, and you assume room temperature, your beneficiaries will pay tax on that money as it comes out. And there's some new rules on the way beneficiary IRAs work that I don't really love, and I think they'll probably change them in the next iteration of tax law changes. But basically, you have 10 years to get the money out as a beneficiary. But if it's just cash, for instance, the insurance policy is just sitting in an account someplace, that's not an IRA, so you don't have to worry about that. That's going to be given tax-free. Now, what you will want to do, though, absolutely want to have, is you need to do a little bit of estate planning to make sure it gets distributed exactly the way you want, and you can avoid probate court with it. So there's ways that you can set up accounts where you could totally avoid probate court. And that means the moment you assume room temperature, if they present a death certificate to whoever's holding that account, they have access to the money. And so it happens very efficiently, very quickly, and that's really how you want to send your money on to the next generation, if possible.
All right. Get your financial questions in now to 440-546-2255. We are with Dave Szfranski, founder of Edgewater Investment Group. Text 440-546-2255 with your financial questions. We'll be right back.
Why can't Christians get to the place where we sin much less? With all the tools available to help us, why can't we do better? If I could do it all over again, Christian leaders shared the most important lessons of their lives. You know, with all of our Bibles and sermons and Christian books, why can't Christians seem to do better? George Verwer, founder of Operation Mobilization, suggests,
I think some learn and some don't learn, but that doesn't mean those who have learned don't have lapses or failures or make mistakes. I've made a few.
Stuart Briscoe is a speaker and author. At the age of 90, he still travels the world, teaching and encouraging others. He agrees that in some ways, Christians these days are doing better.
Well, I think we do. As time goes on, I think we do some things better, but we're never going to get them completely right. The old business of being created in the image of God but fallen is fundamental of our humanity, and so we're going to have to recognize that we're on a steep learning curve, and we do learn very, very slowly at times, and we do not take to heart the lessons of previous generations or from our personal experience. But I wouldn't say that we don't learn from history. We don't learn enough from history, or we don't implement enough of what we've been learning.
This has been a production of Moody Radio, a ministry of Moody Bible Institute based on the book, If I Could Do It All Over Again.
Music is an important way that we can joyfully worship the Lord. This month, take your family on an exploration of music in the Bible with Today in the Word's Family Study. This kid-friendly devotional will help keep your entire family grounded in Scripture and includes hands-on activities to help your children understand why music is a wonderful gift from God. Get your free Today in the Word devotional and download the free Go Along Family Study at todayintheword.com.
God bless the working man.
And I've actually tried to coach Lauren's husband, Eddie, on this. I gave him your philosophy, my philosophy for every project that comes up in the house I must do.
Yes.
It requires a new tool.
Yes.
And it usually does. Lauren, this man needs a new tool. Eddie needs a new tool right now.
Well, it is his birthday today.
Birthday is new tool anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry. This man has so many new tools, okay?
He's got a starter kit, Lauren. That doesn't count.
Starter kit? Come on.
I don't know what he has. He has so many tools, okay? And do not even get me started on his Amazon wish list. It's all tools.
I like him better. Here's what Eddie needs to do. You say, you don't want me to do this wrong, do you? And you say, well, no, because no's easy to say. He will have a lot of tools. Eddie, you're welcome, and thank you.
And that advice is free. That's good advice.
That's free. But he probably just got 10 new tools out of it.
I'm sure.
I hope you're listening, Eddie. We got your back, bro.
Oh
if you're not on the live stream, Lauren just shot Ron the dirtiest glare for putting that together.
Oh, Ron, you got to send that to me. I got to send it to Eddie. That's funny. Wow. Oh, okay. We're back with Dave Szfranski, founder of Edgewater Investment Group. Get your financial questions in 440-546-2255. All right, Dave, I inherited appreciated mutual funds and ETFs with a low-cost basis. I'm considering a charitable gift annuity as part of my giving plan. What are the pros and cons of a CGA? And he said, also, I'm 62 and retired and have other investments, Roth and a traditional IRA, and have adequate retirement income from pensions.
Well, before you go with the charitable gift annuity, which is, it's not necessarily a bad idea. It's a strategy to give money away, but to keep the income from the money, which, depending on how your portfolios are set up, it might make total sense to do that. But when you inherit things, it doesn't matter what the basis is that they were bought at, because you inherit them. And this is one of my favorite phrases. I think I have T-shirts with this on it. It says, "I love stepped up basis." I love stepped up, like I heart stepped up basis. And I should make that T-shirt. Now, if somebody out there makes that T-shirt, I'm going to be very mad at you.
Yeah, you got to trademark
but
it.
I'll probably still buy it. I love stepped up basis. And stepped up basis means that when you inherit a piece of property or an investment, a stock, a bond, a mutual fund, you inherit it. Your basis is whatever that cost at the date of that person's death who gave it to you. So, for instance, a lot of people's parents would have bought a house back in 1960 and lived in it until their death. That people did that. My parents bought their first house for $12,000. $12,000, and if they had left it to me in a will, or had left it to me as a result of their death, I would have inherited that house at the value today. And so that stepped-up basis is really a powerful thing that people in Congress are actually trying to change right now, because they miss out on a lot of tax because of it. And it's one of the reasons why owning a house creates such generational wealth, because you buy a house even just 15 years ago, Lauren. How you see how much housing has gone up in the last several years. Well, if you paid $100,000 for a house, you die and leave it to your kids, and now it's worth $350,000, which is very possible. And they sold the house for $350,000. They owe no tax whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
I love stepped up basis. It's one of my favorite words to say. Oh, stepped up basis, great. Now, the charitable gift annuity, if you have other assets that you're living off of, and you don't need the asset itself, but you want the income from it, you can give it away and get a current tax deduction, and then the gift annuity is going to pay you an income stream, typically for the rest of your life. And then when you die, whatever's left over in that annuity will go to the charities or charity that you designated. So it is a giving strategy that a lot of people do, especially if you have a little bit more in assets and you don't need this asset and you don't want to leave it to somebody else.
Oh.
So if you're charitably oriented, it's not a bad way to go. It's used quite frequently, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Hi, question for Dave. I'm paying off my mom's home equity loan, and in exchange, my stepdad is transferring the deed to their home, a modular home. My mom recently passed away, and he just wants out of the mortgage. My husband and I want to sell the modular as soon as possible. My question is, what should we do to avoid capital gains tax on about $100,000 profit? Charitable annuities fully funded my husband's 401k till the end of the year?
Well, so there's a little bit of a tax hiccup here that you're going to run into, because to escape capital gains on the purchase of a primary residence, you have to have lived in it for 2 out of the last 5 years as your primary residence. And so it might make more sense before the deed is transferred for stepdad to sell it. He's going to gift the house. I think what you really need to do before you do this transaction, before you sign paperwork and do things, I would sit down with a CPA and just kind of walk through the steps and see if there's a way that we can do this to limit taxation. Because if you get gifted a house that you've never lived in, my assumption is that there is going to be some tax due on it, but I don't know exactly how it's going to be looked at right now. But I think I want to talk to a reputable CPA just to say, what's the best way that we could do this to limit taxation to zero? I want to be to zero is my goal, because if stepdad sold the house right now, his capital gain is zero. So how can we get to zero and still get the money out of the house if there's a way? And that's I think we're going to need a CPA on this one.
Okay. I found a 10-year-old uncashed tax return check. Can I still cash it, or do I need to have it reissued?
Well, normally I would say, hey, just call the IRS. But how long do you think that's? How many days do you think you're going to be on hold? You know, when they
goodness.
Say that, you get on the queue and they say, well, your wait time is 7 minutes. With the IRS, your wait time is, and I think they give you a year someplace in the future, 2027. You're not going to be able to cash it. Those checks are generally good for 90 or 120 days.
Oh.
The bank won't accept it. The banks are pretty keen to this stuff too, and they like when we have a lot of firms have this now. It's called a remote desktop deposit, where you used to have to overnight a check someplace. Well, now you just feed it through this machine, and it does some fancy things with the check and makes a lot of noise, and it writes something on the check, but it also looks for the expiration dates. And it will, because of artificial intelligence, it will find those expiration dates, so no one's going to cash this check. Conceivably, you could contact the IRS and ask them to reissue the check. I don't know exactly what that process is, but I can tell you it's going to be arduous and painful and lengthy. But if the check is big enough, it's worth it. I would definitely do it.
Okay. Hold on.
It might be easier to go get 3 root canals today
Oh, wow.
than it is to get that check reissued.
Yeah, probably. I have been using...
And more fun.
No, not more fun. No, that's wrong. I have been using a mutual fund that is doing okay. I would like to know if I want to try the stock market using Robinhood or Webbull platform to invest on my own, or should I stick with mutual funds?
Well, the thing about a mutual fund that's doing okay is you have about 100,000 other choices. So you don't have to stay with a mutual fund that's only doing okay. You could have mutual funds that are doing great. You know, you should have great mutual funds because they're available to you. And there are so many mutual funds and ETFs out there. And the thing that I like about them is if you don't have a lot of money to start, a mutual fund or an ETF gives you first dollar diversification. You have broad-based diversification in most ETFs and mutual funds. So don't stay with a mutual fund that's not doing, you know, if it's not in the top 10 of its category, why would you own it? And there are times where mutual funds go through kind of a rough patch for a lot of reasons. I'd want to know why it isn't doing as good as the other ones, and this information is pretty easy to find out. But if you haven't done great picking mutual funds, what makes you think you're going to do better picking individual stocks at Robinhood? That is a much more nuanced process. It takes a little bit more research, and so I would get good first at the mutual fund idea or the ETF part of it, and then move to some individual investments later on once you've kind of perfected, you know, picking these top 10 mutual funds. And what they're, I don't even know if it still exists, but Money Magazine used to print quarterly the top 20 mutual funds that you should own now. And one time, just on a whim, I looked at who the editor of Money Magazine was. And it just so happens that they had no financial experience, and they were the former editor of Rolling Stone magazine. And so they were good at printing a magazine, but not necessarily great at investment advice. I think what you should do is invest in things that make sense for you. So if you're younger, I think it makes sense to be a lot more growth-oriented, to be a lot more stock-oriented, to be a lot more technology-oriented than if you're 85 and you need income to live on and you can't absorb a short-term loss. So these are the kind of the sifting process that you go through. You know, we talk to people from the radio all the time, Lauren, and with the promise that I've made is that, look, if you have a question, like, hey, should I own this mutual fund? You could call us and we'll talk to you. And now it might not be the day that you call, but we will return your call, and you don't have to invest with us. You don't have to do. We want to make sure that people get information that can help them be financially successful. So I always like to put that out there just so people know we don't ring the register every time somebody calls. We don't have to do those things. We're in a totally different position as a firm, and you know, I've been in this business now for over 3 decades, even though I'm 45-ish.
Wow, your business is older than me.
Yeah.
Got him. Okay, also I have to tell everyone what you texted me. Dave texted me, my dedication to Moody is endless. It's 2 a.m. here. He's in Hawaii.
Oh.
And we did have someone text in and say, thanks to Dave for being on the radio at 2 a.m. Hawaii time.
Yes, but it may be 2 a.m. Hawaii time, but it's not that time to my body. So I don't want to sell myself short. I sacrifice so much for you guys. It's just unbelievable.
Oh, okay.
Sacrificing on the beach.
And also, please let it be known that when you told me you were going to be on vacation, I said, Dave, you don't have to be on with us. You can take a break. We'll be okay not doing it for a week. And you said no. So no one come blaming me. This was his own fault.
All him.
It is. This is how much I love you guys. And by the way, I have a present for you when I get back.
It's the sashes.
Been waiting for those.
Wow.
And
I'm
grass
excited.
skirts.
You can wear it, Ron.
I would like to see Ron in a grass skirt.
I've got a picture from high school.
Well, let's see it. Pull it out. You got to go find it.
Oh, boy. No, let's not do that. Let's not do that.
Okay. Financial questions with Dave Szfranski, founder and president of Edgewater Investment Group. Text 440-546-2255. Any financial questions, 440-546-2255.
You know, you see a huge group of people and maybe they're in line to do something and they seem happy about it. You have to wonder, okay, what am I missing? What's going on here? What are these people excited about? Well, in this case, it's thousands of people and they're joining MediShare. Why? Well, MediShare is a much more affordable alternative to health insurance. It's reliable, too. It's a well-run community of Christians. They've been sharing each other's medical expenses for more than 30 years, so it's proven. And if you switch, you'll likely save hundreds of dollars a month. Most members wind up paying about half what they used to. And you know what? They find they like it better. MediShare's member satisfaction rate is 98%. That's way better than health insurance, as you might imagine. You don't have to pay for things you don't believe in. You get telehealth 24/7, huge freedom in choosing your doctors. At least check into it. This may be one of those things where you're like, why didn't I do this a long time ago? Why not start saving now? Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
The words you are about to hear are taken from letters sent in by members of the Trinity Debt Management Program.
Dear Trinity, today I'm making my final credit card payment.
Before I came to you, I was in a constant state of anxiety and panic, but now there is hope for my family's financial future.
Working with Trinity made me understand that I'm not alone.
You really do help people.
Your kindness will never be forgotten.
Without Trinity's support, I would not have achieved my lifelong goal of becoming debt-free.
We saved a lot on interest and penalties, of course, but the reward was the gift of human kindness.
Trinity has carried me through a very difficult time in my life. You're amazing.
I used to feel so anxious and hopeless. Now I feel grace and peace.
God bless Trinity as you continue to help others become debt-free.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Armando, Armando, Armando. Armando, Armando, Armando. A-R-M-A-N-D-O. A-R-M-A-N-D-O.
What is this?
Armando, Armando, Armando.
Is this Dave singing?
Oh my gosh.
I do a pretty good impression of that, actually.
It sounds like Sesame Street or something. That's what it sounds like. Well, this is Moody Radio Cleveland. You're traveling?
I've had a lot of opportunities to tell people my name is Armando.
Oh yeah, the Starbucks line at restaurants.
Car rentals.
Oh, car rental. You do not put your car rental under that name.
I don't think you can do that.
You can't, because then they look at your license.
They do look at your license. You know what? They didn't in Hawaii. They didn't. You just punch in this code to get out of the rental car place. So if you know the code, you can steal all the cars.
Oh,
I don't know.
Okay.
There's nowhere to go. It's an island, so you're not going to go very far.
Okay.
You're going to come and find you.
Financial questions with Dave Szfranski, but not life advice for renting cars. Text or call with your financial questions, 440-546-2255. Ron, you had a question?
Yes, Dave, you often say the best time to buy stocks is when there's blood in the street.
Oh.
And I'm wondering.
Yes.
That's a lot.
See, I'm wondering, Tesla has been cutting jobs like crazy. Is that indicative of the bad news, the blood in the street, or is it just appropriate restructuring?
The bad news on Tesla is really kind of Tesla specific, not necessarily economic. But I do think some of the things that are happening in the EV market in general is you're seeing some of the weaker companies are starting to get weeded out, and they're going by the wayside. And the state of Illinois just had to give Rivian several $100 million to keep them in business and to build a new plant because they can't do it on their own. They don't have the money. And I think some of the Chinese competition for Tesla is really problematic. And Tesla, for a long time, it's like Kleenex. Kleenex was the first tissue out there. So for years, everybody would say, can you give me a Kleenex? Well, several companies made Kleenex, but Tesla was first, and they were the best, and they were the first ones to really mass merchandise and assembly line EVs. Well, some of that is ending, and they've had to kind of retool what they're doing so that they can compete with some of these high production Chinese companies, and that's what you're seeing. Now, I happen to like Tesla, and the reason I don't love EVs in general, but I see where they have application, but the infrastructure for EVs just is horrible. So I took a cab the other night from an airport, and I got picked up in an EV, and I said, well, how's your day going? I'm talking to the driver, and he says, well, I got really screwed up because I had to go charge for an hour, and I had to wait for an hour to charge because there aren't enough chargers. Enough said. You didn't need to go any further than that. That's the limiting factor. You know, you're driving an internal combustion engine, which we call ICE engines now, not just cars. You go to the gas station, you're there for 5 to 7 minutes. You have a full tank of gas, 3 hot dogs, and a Diet Pepsi because you're watching your weight, and you're driving off, right? If you're charging an EV, you haven't even plugged in your car yet. You're there for the duration. My poor friend Jerry, who lived in Kentucky, would drive up to see me. I hadn't seen him for like a year. And he comes into my office. I'm like, Jerry, what happened to you? Are you sick? Your head's like the size of a basketball. And he said, well, I bought an EV, and I have to charge it on the way here and on the way back. And so I stop, and, I've got an hour and a half, and so I eat. So I put on like 45 pounds. Like, Jerry, we're driving to the dealership down the street and trading that car in right now, or you're going to blow up. And that's what happens with EVs. It takes so long if you don't have a home charger, or if you're out on the road and you're running up against this range anxiety that everybody has with an EV. It is very, very time consuming. And until they change that or make battery life go to 1,000 miles, your implementation on EVs is probably near where it's going to be, plus or minus a few percentage points, but it's going to be at about 5 or 4% of all vehicles driven are going to be EVs. And They're very expensive to junk. If you crash a Rivian's an all-electric pickup truck, and they have a SUV. If you get into a fender bender with a Rivian, it's about $15,000 to fix a fender bender.
Wow.
It's untenable. We can't have this stuff. There's no way. It's just silliness. I'm pretty sure that we are currently living in an alternate universe, or we're all going to wake up and we're sitting in pods and we're connected to some life source that's feeding us, keeping us alive while they use our brain power to compute something.
Okay.
It doesn't seem real. That it's so silly right now.
It is. Well, thank you,
But
Dave.
I might be wrong about that whole thing.
We'll see. Time will tell, huh? Thanks, Dave, for your time and for waking up at 2 a.m. in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Are you going to be in person with us next week?
I will be in person. I will be in person with you, yes.
Okay.
I might have like a little bit of sunburn, so if we could keep the lights low just to, I burn easy. So.
No, what we will be doing is making fun of you. So we will talk to you next week. Thanks for your advice and your time, Dave. For those who I didn't get to your questions, I will set them aside for next week. I have a little stash away from when we don't get to questions. We've had Dave Szfranski, founder and president of Edgewater Investment Group. Tomorrow is Follow-Up Friday. We have Pastor Scott Lessing with us. Very exciting. Did you hear something this week that you want to talk more about? Call, text, or any advice from a pastor, just let us know. It's time for J.D. Greer.
Mornings with Brian.